Everybody back? No, no, he's talking. Okay, we might as well get going. Good evening. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Northfield Township Board to order. This is April 11th. Please stand. Do I have a volunteer for the invocation tonight? No?
Mr. Dacker.
All right, I'll do it. Dear God, we thank you for this opportunity to serve the residents of Northfield Township in our role as trustees of the board. We ask your wisdom and your guidance as we deal with the sometimes difficult issues of township government. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll, Clerk Manley.
Bellinger.
Here.
Dockett.
Here.
Zelenock.
Present.
Chockley.
Here.
Manley here. Otto. Here. Chick. Here. All here.
Okay, thank you. We're all here. Okay. I'd like to make a motion on the request of some of our residents who are here to hear about the Kiwanis proposal for 75 Barker, to move that up to above agenda number 1.
What's the number on that?
It's number 7.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's going in front of 1.
Right, in front of 1. So I made that motion. Do I have
I'll
a support? Okay, motion by Chockley and support by Manley to amend the agenda to move it. Do we have any comments on that?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Zelenock.
So I would just like to have more maybe thought put into the agenda, that we think if people are going to come, that we put it at the top. As you know, I don't like changing agenda items because people may plan their evening to show up at certain times.
Understood.
Thank you.
Okay.
I didn't understand it. What was that now?
Well, you know, when we set out an agenda and we say it's going to be number 7, there may be people that have other commitments and plan and say, well, I don't have to show up at 7. Maybe 8 o'clock will be sufficient to hit that agenda item.
I agree with you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion by Chockley and support by Manley. All in favor of amending the agenda?
We'll need a roll call vote, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Chick.
Yes.
Otto.
Yes.
Manley. Yes. Chockley.
Yes.
Zelenock.
No.
Dockett.
No.
Bellinger.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 5 to 2. No, 5 to 2, yes. Okay, you have before you the consent agenda, which I skipped over. I'm sorry about that. Do we have any reports that need to be pulled out of the consent agenda? Ms. Bellinger.
The 313 minutes, the regular meeting, and I had something about the assessing report, but I don't know why at this moment. But certainly the 313 regular meeting, it just needs a little edit. That's what I see. I mean, maybe other people find other things.
Okay, 313.
Yeah, the assessing report, I had some questions on the assessing report. That's,
Okay.
so yeah, I remember now. If I can find it.
So I have to find it, sorry. There we go.
I'm trying to pull out the assessing report and the March 13th minutes.
And I'd like to pull out the March 27th minutes also, just for a name correction, spelling correction.
Is that the regular?
Of the regular meeting, yes. Okay. So make sure I got this right. We're pulling out March 13th, March 27th minutes, and the assessing report. Is there anything else? Okay, I'd like to add those to the bottom after bills.
Can we also take a look at maybe if there's any dialogue we may have with Dan while he's here?
Well, that's part of the consent agenda, so if there's any dialogue, we better pull it
Yeah,
out
we better
now.
yank that because he's here and it'd be nice to talk about a couple things going on too. So that's the waste treatment.
Wastewater treatment plant, okay, we'll pull it.
I had one for Dan, but I already asked him about it.
Okay. Yeah, that would make Dan wait till the end if we pull that out.
Maybe we should put
No,
them
we don't
after
want that.
reports. After
Pardon?
our, why don't we move,
Okay, we'll put him after our reports.
yeah, put that, I mean, why don't we put the minutes and all that after reports and updates?
Yeah, after manager's report?
All right.
Yes.
All of those items we pulled out of the consent agenda will be after the manager's report. Okay. Do we need a motion for that?
Yes, so
We're-
am I.
Yes. They're not going to be 10. We would like to let Dan go after his request for the pay increase for Hunter Lewis. So if we put him at 10, he could be here at 10 o'clock, so it's been a long day, I'm sure. So we're going to move the minutes, we're going to move all of those items to right after manager's report. Should take only seconds. Should be quick.
Will Chief Wagner want to add anything? Certainly we can ask him to comment on anything of interest.
I'm sure he's written in his report. Do you really want to comment on anything?
I'm not sure what you're looking for me to comment. I was going to stay through the civic event permits.
Okay, great.
Okay. Okay.
What'd you say?
They asked me if I had any comments on my report. And if you don't have any questions, I guess I don't have any comments, but I'll stay through the civic event approvals if you have any questions or.
Okay.
I have nothing.
You have nothing. Okay, great. So we'll take it as I just said. Okay, so motion to amend the agenda again to put the 2 minutes and the, what else? The wastewater treatment and the assessing, right after the manager's report. Okay. So that was a motion by Chalkley. Do I have a support? Ms. Bellinger, would you like to support
support.
that?
Yeah, I support you.
Okay, motion by Chalkley, support by Bellinger. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, great. All right. We have an opportunity now for a call to the public. Do we have anyone here who would like to speak to us at this time? Please come up. Make sure the microphone's turned on. Put it right close to your mouth. State your name and your address, and feel free to share with us for 3 minutes or so anything you'd like to. Okay. Thank you.
My name is Amy Steffans. My address is 9168 Lakewood Drive. I am here about Resolution 18-579 to preclude the Board of Trustees from participating in any pre-development meetings with building and zoning applicants. I have some concerns about this resolution, and I'm hoping that those concerns can be addressed during the hearing for this. Number one, my first question is what is the problem that this resolution is trying to address? Is there a better way to address the problem rather than passing a resolution that will preclude any one of you from being involved in any meetings, pre-development meetings, concept meetings? I'm a little confused as to what the point behind the resolution is. Second of all, how is this going to be enforced? Is this going to empower the township manager to exclude trustees from any meetings or any conversations with the developer? I mean, we keep talking in the township about how difficult it is for people to understand the process. And we can make as many work charts and flow charts as we want, but it seems to me that this is only adding to the confusion as to what the development process is. Should you, as trustees, refuse to discuss any concept or any development with the public? And then looking forward to the North Village, does this mean you cannot have any involvement in the North Village? So I'm a little confused as to how this would work, and then what is the reasoning behind this resolution. As a citizen, I just would like some of those answers during the hearing.
Okay.
Please, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want me to leave this on?
Yes, thank you. Do we have anyone else who would like to speak at this time? Gosh, seeing no one, we will move right on. I guess we could have turned it off. Board member comments? Do we have any board members who would like to speak about anything right now? Mr. Dockett?
Yes, I want to speak about this Planning Commission report. This ordinance is to, this ordinance, as it is currently written, refers to mostly Christmas tree sales during the Christmas season. But it also is going to talk about other holidays like Halloween and Thanksgiving and the 4th of July. Does the Planning Commission really need to change or to charge a fee for a permit to sell holiday items? Talk about Big Brother and growing government. I think this is sickening. Read this. I mean, I want to sell a bunny rabbit on Easter, I've got to come to the Planning Commission. Or if I want to sell a pumpkin, I've got to come to the Planning Commission. Get off it, you know. I call the Planning Commission a bunch of extortionists. And that's just exactly what they're doing here. And way over the top on government. We don't need this kind of stuff, in my opinion. Very, very stupid. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other board member comments? Ms. Chick?
Yeah, the Planning Commission does not charge fees. The township charges fees for permits. We have no control over fees. Those are things that the board establishes, fees for those things. That ordinance in particular, because the ordinance simply addressed Christmas tree sales, wanted to broaden it to include any other holiday event as well. But we don't set fees for those things. We can choose not to have fees, but that's a board decision, so.
It says here, appropriate acquiring a certified occupancy for these things. So don't give me that stuff that is just a simple thing. No, you got to get a certificate of occupancy if you want to sell a hot dog.
Only if they're putting a structure up. So
You don't need to restrict things like this. I mean,
Okay.
this is just way over the top.
the ordinance will come before the board in the future, and we can discuss that at that time.
Well, I have a right to discuss it right now if I want to. That's what I'm doing. Thank you.
That's fine. Okay. Do we have any other? Ms. Zelenock?
I would just like to have an update on the community center. I know Mr. Ains sent us board members an update, but I'd like to maybe let the public know what's happening on that. Please, thank you.
Earlier this week, the director advised me that she had a problem with the sewer line, and Dan was kind enough to take his people over and get it cleared. It was blocked between the building and the street, but in the process it did cause a mess in the building. And so we do have a company that was starting cleanup today and was supposed to be done today. So I excused her from coming, the director from coming tonight, to make sure that gets taken care of. I'm told that it requires about a 12-hour airing out period after they clean it before you should allow the public to be in it. So she is hoping to reopen it on Thursday of this week.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other board member comments at this time? Okay, seeing no one. You all have in your packet a Hamburg Township Master Plan notification letter, which this township will also do at the time when they begin to do the master plan. So that's in there, and Ms. Steffans actually sent that to us. Thank you very much. All right, the next item is the ZBA report. Ms. Otto, do you have anything from the ZBA?
No, we did not have a meeting last month.
Okay, thank you. Planning Commission report, Ms. Chick. I see it's in the packet, but go ahead.
The Planning Commission met April 4th, and the business we discussed was the temporary specialty stores. And that is mostly wordsmithing and changing some of the language right now. It will be finalized probably at our next meeting.
Okay.
What did you talk about? Temporary stores? Is that what you called it?
It's called temporary specialty stores.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Zelenock, Parks and Rec, no, Parks and Rec report, Ms. Bellinger.
I handed out to the board a little update on the application for the Kaboom grant. So I shared that with everybody. Actually, it's a grant that's private money, and it's from the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation in conjunction with Kaboom. I've had assistance with Heidi Roy Borland from the elementary school has assisted with some ideas. So in this packet, which was submitted to the grant application, is a little mock-up drawing of what we could perhaps propose for along the Barker Road path with little playscape things, drawings, and maybe some sound instruments, things, tuned drums they call them, and so forth, and bells. Jennifer helped run this application along with the help from manager Steve Ains. So we're working along with that, and we're anxious to hear any word back from the grant from the foundation. And our next meeting is April 19th at 7 o'clock. Thanks.
Okay. Let's see, Land Preservation Committee, Ms. Zelenock.
Our next meeting is this Thursday, the 12th.
Okay.
And we haven't met since our last meeting here because of the timing, because we meet on the second Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. at the Public Safety Building.
Okay. Woo. Ms. Otto.
I had a question in regards to the Facebook page.
Yes.
I don't know of any other commission or committee for Northfield Township that has a Facebook page. So
Okay.
who administers it? Who authorized it?
Mary Robinson, a member of our committee, has put it on, and it's been out there for probably 3 months. So I'm not sure how you would want to proceed on that. If you want us to remove it, we can.
Is there a concern about content?
I think there's a concern that it's a appointed committee, and the board, usually our township, all documentations go through the township first before it goes out in public media. This is a public media.
Okay. So how would you like us? How would you like us to handle it?
I would have liked it to be brought to the board first.
Okay.
To see if the board would have approved something like this, because this is something new.
Well, I mean, I have been reporting it for the last 3 months on the report. So
This is the first time I've seen it.
no, it's been there. But, I mean, so just tell me what you want us to do. I mean, do you want us to take it down? Do you want us to, I mean, how do you want us to proceed?
What are you putting on there?
Yeah, what are you putting down there?
We put our meetings, we put our proposals, you know, anything that's been brought to the board. But do whatever you guys want us to do. What's your recommendation? I mean, what do you want us to do?
Is it purely factual? I mean, objective information? I mean, it's not, is it
So based on
promoting?
my thought is,
Or is it
That's my
editorializing?
concern, is
my
that you start
thought
going
is,
down that
if you have a
track.
concern with it, we'll take it down. That's what I would recommend.
I mean, all I'm looking for is if you have factual stuff on there, I don't,
So what
I
I
don't have a
think we'll
problem
do,
with it.
we'll take it down and we'll just put everything, make sure everything's posted through the township website.
yeah, because I don't have a problem with having a web page for the Land
Yep,
Pr-
and we do have a
Preservation
web
Committee
page.
on our
Yep,
web page,
yep.
but having its own Facebook page, then you get into murky waters of
Yep.
people responding and,
Yep, so we will make everything go through the township website.
Ms. Chick?
I'm sorry. I had a question about, a couple of items we would like to emphasize is having land preservation and development should be done together. It is an and, not an or. What does that mean?
So I think in the past, we've always had, you know, I think to be a successful administration, we have to do both. Preservation and development. I think it's been perceived that it's one or the other. And I think they need to coexist to be successful and to be successful as a board.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't think that might be an individual perception, but I don't think most people think
Yeah.
that. But I was unsure in the way it was worded. I thought maybe that meant if we're going to like put a development over here, then we have to do something
No.
with land preservation. It's okay.
So I just think as a board, if we succeed at both, we will succeed as a
Right.
board.
Oh,
And maybe I'll
absolutely.
get reelected.
No, I don't think anybody, I can't imagine someone would disagree with
Yeah.
that, so, okay.
That was the intent.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is the financial treasurer's report. And Lenore, you do a great job here with putting all these numbers together and all these
Well, thank
graphs and, so.
I will not, I put together the financial report to tell us where the monies are as far as the checking account and the CDs. And we did have a couple CDs that came up, and we have reinvested 2 of them so far. We are still looking for a 3-month CD to partial of the fire truck. At the time when it came due, they only had 6 months, and in communication with the chief, he wanted it to be 3 months. As far as the graphs, the credit goes to our controller, Yvette Patrick. She does the graphs as well as she does the general fund information.
I do have a quick question. What happened to the rental income for Barker Road? Do you know?
That is now moved to its own graph
Own
in its
graph.
own fund and on the request of the board.
Okey doke. Thank you. Any more questions? Ms. Bellinger?
Yeah, I had a question on the land preservation memo here. They're working on creating a fact postcard of the benefits. I was curious to hear more about this postcard and where this is, what, why, and how.
So after our land preservation meeting in February, we thought it would be very beneficial to the Land Preservation Committee if they put a fact of why is land preservation useful. And so that we would like to put that together so we capture all the good thoughts that have come out of that meeting. So we're working on that. And at one point in time, we'd like to present it to the board when it's ready to be presented.
Okay. Fund balance report. Any questions on that one? Okay, supervisor's report. So you have this in your packet. I just want to make a mention, this is in addition to my supervisor's report, that I had put out an email to the board and would like to prepare a resolution on the situation with cutting the trees down and the road commission. And I'd asked for comments from the board on what they might like to include in that, or their thoughts on that. And I did get some response from Ms. Zelenock. But if any of the other board members would like to contribute to that resolution, feel free to send me some information. Planning on this resolution being on the May 8th board meeting agenda, because that's our annual meeting with the Road Commission, so it seemed to me an appropriate time to have that resolution.
So what is the objective of the resolution going to be?
There's a lot of concern about the process of informing the residents about what was going to happen on North Territorial. And there's definitely trade-offs, you know, with site distances, and it's not a black and white issue. And I don't want to make this out to be a black and white issue, but I do think that the Road Commission could have perhaps more clearly let everyone know what was going to happen, so we would know. Now, I did call and I did send you all out an email and with the information that I had received, but I know that a lot of the members of the public did have concern about some very large trees being taken down. And if they were dead or dying, I don't have a problem with that, you know. So anyway, there are trade-offs, and we have to recognize the business of the Road Commission is to keep the motoring public safe. But perhaps we could have been informed a little better on it, and maybe there was a plan B for at least some of the heritage trees. So we don't have to, I mean, you know, I'm just looking for your thoughts and trying to, you know, meet the needs.
I think this is broader than just the trees, though. I think in anything that the county commission, road commission does in our township, we need to have prompt communication.
Oh, yes.
So it's not just the trees, it's just anything that is being done in our township. We have to have prompt communication so we can notify the public.
Right. And we do get something almost every week, and Ms. Carlisle puts it out there on the email when there's work going to be done. You know, we make every attempt to inform everyone. This project was a little larger and more extensive, a lot larger and more extensive than we had anticipated, so that was one of the issues with that one. Ms. Chick?
So my understanding was that they have rejected the grant and they will not be going forward with the project?
They've already taken the trees out
Right.
that they were planning to do. They did turn back a grant, and part of that grant was to take out more trees between Spencer, or I believe it was Spencer, and through North Territorial, you know, along North Territorial into Webster Township. So they have turned back that grant.
So the purpose of the resolution going forward would be that in the future, if you're going to have a project this massive or that affects the township, that we would like to be given plenty of notice and allowed opportunity to give input.
And it is an educational opportunity for the Road Commission, too, to make their case. So I think there's no downside to it. Just knowing well in advance, I don't know that they've ever had a project this large to take out that many trees. And so I think they were a bit surprised, too, having, you know, in retrospect, having as much public outcry as there was. So anyway.
To me, it was like a duh moment. It's like
Well, anyway, we work with the Road Commission, and you know, we'll see. Ms. Zelenock.
So my concern was the notification.
Yes.
The fact that I really found out through Facebook, and a project of this mass should not be communicated that way. I also think there was other ways to provide safety on the roads that they did not explore, such as rumble strips. It's my understanding is that it was $1 million grant. Had they not put in the money for $1 million, so their real intention was to fix 2 culverts, one on Mass Road and one by here on River Drive. However, that was only going to cost like $500,000 or $400,000, and that would not have been enough money for them to get the grant. So they included cutting down the trees. However, they could have done another safety project other than cutting down the trees that they did not explore. So that was my concern, is we, as township officials, are the face of the public. We didn't know about it, and people are asking us about it, and then we're like caught off guard. So that's part of the resolution, is better communication on that. Get us involved, have some public hearing, hear about what the public thinks. So, thank
Okay.
you.
Great. Mr. Dockett?
Well, I read a memo, and they said that they notified the township in February.
They did.
Is that true?
They did. They sent a note, and all it said was tree, road work and tree removal or something like that.
Oh, we missed that.
February 1st. It's kind of a minor, it was
Well, they were looking for a hole to jump in, but they claimed they did it. I just want to know if they did.
They did, February 1st. Ms. Bellinger?
So do I understand that they were incentivized through the use of a grant, our tax money through a grant, to just pretty much arbitrarily cut down a bunch of trees along the road? Is that what I'm understanding in a nutshell?
If you want to state it that way, there
Okay.
were a lot of dead trees it was good that they were removed.
But it was an incentive, they were incentivized through a grant, as opposed to being, it may be efficient and only cutting down dead trees. They're incentivized by a grant of our taxpayer money getting back, in order to get that money back to cut down a bunch of trees along roads.
Okay.
If you go east on North Territorial, there are still a lot of dead trees that are still
There are.
standing that they did not cut down and should. They
They
cut down a
should have.
perfectly good tree, and next to it was a dead tree.
Yep.
They were looking for firewood, maybe.
They only cut down trees within 10 feet of the edge of the road, and so it didn't seem to bother them that there was another tree a foot more further. So there were issues. Anyway, so these are good comments for the resolution. I appreciate them, and we'll see what we can put together as a resolution to provide a little direction, whether they think they need it or not. Thank you. The other item I wanted to bring up that's not in my report is I followed up on the Northfield Church culvert situation today, and the Water Resources Commissioner approved the permit today, and the culvert is scheduled to be replaced on Thursday. So they're very pleased with how quickly they moved through, and thank you all for your support of that resolution and the last time we had it on our board. And so hopefully Thursday it will be completed, and
Is that the
Northfield Church will be
Catholic
open
church?
again.
The Catholic Church drain.
The Catholic Church drain, yes.
I thought you said Northfield.
Well, yeah, they refer to it as the Northfield Church culvert, so,
Well, I see it in the memos
Yeah.
called Catholic Church drain.
okay. So are there any reports on any other portions of my report? I'm waiting to hear back on whether we might be able to get an easement to pass underneath US 23 for a rail trail, bike trail, to go over to the MDOT lot from the North Village and Barker Road. So I just asked that question, and they're checking that out and letting us know if that is even a possibility. But it was a good meeting that we had with MDOT, SimCog, and Watts. So, Ms. Bellinger.
I just would like to know who was it and that attended the DDA meeting that was, you have one resident that attended the meeting, but there's no name. I'm just
did.
curious. It's in your report. isn't it?
Ms. Devlin came.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
It was lovely to have her there. So, anyway, that was great. Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you. The next item is the manager's report. Go ahead, Mr. Ains.
First, I'd like to defer to Mr. Maines. There's an issue that he's been working on for the township. He wanted to report back, and involves administration also.
I just wanted to give everyone a quick update, late breaking item. I was informed this morning that Kurt Weiland performed the open pit inspection at 7725 Shady Beach. That's the structure that we were trying to get knocked down that had the falling chimney and the unstable front porch. So that's been demolished. Kurt approved the open pit inspection this morning. I think that we just have a final inspection left to approve, and then I'll be bringing it back to the board and asking for authorization to dismiss the lawsuit. So, good news. That's
Good
finally
news.
come down. So,
Good.
What was the address again?
7725 Shady Beach.
We seen that.
Okay, thanks.
Now, the first item on my report, I mentioned the rental space here in Township Hall. The contractor has submitted an application for a building permit. I hosted a get-together with him and our building official last Friday where we went over details of their proposal, and that's going to be submitted to engineering for review. So they originally had expected to be under construction and completed by May 1st. Obviously that's not going to take place, but they are still in the process. I have heard some rumors that people have said that it's not taking place because it hasn't occurred yet. That's not correct. We'll keep you informed. In addition, I want to point out the supervisor and I attended a meeting with the road commission the other day to discuss the amount of money being available next year for projects within the township. And we'll be reporting back to the board with more details as we get into that. And as she mentioned, they'll be coming to our meeting. I also got notice they're going to have an open house for their new facility on North Territorial. And so we will be communicating that as well to the board and the public. Also, it was mentioned about the playground project. This is one that is private money. It's a private foundation. It's basically been a volunteer effort that was brought to us by Ton, and there were some other citizens working on that. Jennifer did a great deal of the development of that project in terms of getting the application together. This is a preliminary one. It doesn't involve a commitment by the board to proceed at this point. They just said we had to get something in by last Friday, a concept plan, and then they would get back to us and help us with that to see whether or not it's a viable project from their viewpoint. We did put in there that we were looking for $45,000 to $65,000 as a range. That's totally an estimate, but they wanted us to put a dollar amount in for what the project might entail. But it's basically taking the non-motorized pathway, which was completed last year, and adding sites at the elementary school, at the library, where there would be some active musical instruments that are designed for the public. And then in addition to that, it involves various decals or painting on the sidewalk itself for activities that people can do, hopscotch and other type things. And it's viewed with it being a fishing motif, tying it into the lakefront. And in addition to that, we're looking at trying to get some benches installed in some of the areas where we have wooded areas adjacent to the non-motorized path, where it might help with other people being able to go so far and have a seat and continue. So I think it was a great project, and we'll let the board know more about it as we go ahead. With that, I think you can see the rest of the report.
Thank you. Ms. Otto.
On the Township Employee Handbook, when do we expect to have the first draft?
The attorney has been tied up with a number of things here in April, so I have a meeting with her on May 5th, and I expect we'll have something within a couple weeks after that.
Ms. Chick?
Two things on that item. Can we give a target date that we'd like to see it completed so it doesn't get pushed down the road consistently as it has been. Number two, very glad to see that the capital improvement plan is beginning to be underway. The last capital improvement plan was done by the Planning Commission, and I don't know if you've looked at it or not, but there were forms in there. You could probably use the same forms to give to department heads, or you can tweak them, whatever you want to do, but you know, at least you got a foot in the door.
Thank you. Yes, I have read through the last capital improvement plan. 2018 was the last year of that plan, so it is appropriate to do a new one as part of the budget. And in addition to that, I've asked the board for input on any sort of items that you would like to see in the budget. I've also had the controller make forms for me where it basically shows the current allocation by line item with blanks for next year, which I'm going to be handing out to the department heads so that they can begin that process shortly. And then in addition to that, we are trying to talk to people like the road commission and so forth to get information. Also, the SAW grant, which deals with studying the wastewater treatment plant, a large amount of that is looking at what the future needs are for the wastewater plant over the next several years. So it's a timely event that we have that information coming in at the time that we're updating the capital improvement plan. So I'm hopeful the board will be pleased with the results.
Thank you. Ms. Manley?
Any update on, or have you gotten any bids on the build out up here?
At this point, I was waiting till the building plans got submitted, and in those plans it does show the build out of this area and also the other office area. So what that does is it's included in the application for the building permit rather than us having to do a separate one. The intent was to get an estimate from this contractor and also some other contractors based on those plans. But right now what they've shown us is not specific enough. You need to see, you know, the detail, where the outlets are, and a lot of different other things that the building official is asking them to show on the plans. And once we get that, then I'll be able to go out and get proposals.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be a very long process to do that one.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Bellinger?
I want to thank you, Stephen Ains, for the work you've been doing. I enjoy that you're in the office, and I very much appreciate the work you do. I do want to make a note. I believe we heard about the Kaboom grant from Zelenock. I think she informed the board about that. So thank you, Lenore. And I had a question. How is I understand our new office staff, Emily, may have started. How is that going? Is there just want to say welcome to her and just ask how things are in the office. Thanks.
The new receptionist started this week, and I think so far doing well, but like anyone starting new, there's a lot of information for her to learn, but the other staff are being very helpful in training her. It is still a part-time position, but she seems to be a very pleasant individual and is very enthused about being here, very excited about the job. So we're happy to have her as well. If you recall, we had reported to the board that we had something like 200 applications for the position. And so we feel we got one of the best of the group with this.
Mr. Dockett?
I'd like to say that we're talking about this build-out. We've signed a lease a couple months ago. And we signed a lease, a binding lease for 5 years. We don't have a building permit. We don't have a zoning permit. I don't think we, to me, it looks like selective enforcement. I don't think we would have the little people out here getting a lease for a building, signing a 5-year lease before they've been for the building permit, before they've been for the zoning. It just doesn't figure for me. That I don't like it. It don't pass the smell test to me. I don't, could you tell me another building in this town that was signed a lease and then went to the building permit, to get a building permit, then went to zoning, and then went to planning? I don't know of any. So
Okay.
we're treating ourselves pretty good here, I guess.
If I could respond.
Go ahead.
I had mentioned before that the building is zone planned unit development, PUD. I did have the zoning administrator review that, and she did confirm that this is an acceptable use within that zoning. I did have the planner also review it, and he has confirmed in writing to me that that is also acceptable. It is not uncommon for either the owner or the tenant to apply for a building permit, but they're not going to spend money on designing plans to get a building permit unless they have a signed lease. I think that's typical in the community as well. And you know, I'm more than happy, as I said before a couple of weeks back, Mr. Dockett, to investigate any other aspect of this that you feel like should be investigated. If you have any place I should go or anyone I should talk to about
Yes,
it.
I'd like to talk to our lawyer. It's a PUD, and I want to know if you went to the bond council. Because what happens here is the township borrows money at a very, very small percentage. There are rules. You cannot change anything in the building on a PUD without going to the bond council and being okayed. Now, that is a fact, I'm pretty sure. So, I think we have failed to do that.
I fully agree with you, Mr. Dockett. The first person I probably talked to before we ever got into negotiations was with our bond counselor, with Miller, Canfield, Paddock, and Stone, and he confirmed that this was a legitimate use after he saw the documentation that was submitted by the prospective tenant. It is a nonprofit organization that meets that qualification. It does not affect the tax exempt status of the bond.
Why did we not get a copy of it?
I guess I can give you a copy of his email if you'd like. I did report it on several occasions to the board.
I never heard you ever mention the bond council. I don't want to argue with you. Something that's not on here that I read, that you okayed of $50 to the state of Michigan, the MDOT, to get an address, and the people of Northfield Township are going to pay the $50. They've got all kinds of money. They got way over $1 million for this project they got there. I don't think that we should be, the taxpayers should be paying for that. And I also am going to have, when we get to it, I don't think we should be paying their $12,000 and their $200. They've got over $1 million.
Well, I would point out that the board does give me some discretion. I thought $50 was not a big amount, but when you give me authorization to go up to $5,000 for an emergency situation, in this case, the amount of work involved was very little to get an address for them.
It was an emergency. It's not an emergency.
In order for them to address the upcoming building season and get it completed this year, they needed to have the house address, they indicated quickly, in order to get the utilities ordered for DTE to extend the electric lines to it. But you have on the agenda tonight about the request by MDOT to waive other fees, and if the board does waive those fees, then I'll feel like I was correct in waiving it.
Well, if the board does, they sure as hell shouldn't when they got $1 million to do the project. They got a lot more money than Northfield Township.
And if the board doesn't waive the fees to MDOT, I'll give you the $50 as a donation to the township. Because as you know,
Careful, I
sometimes
might make a little payola here myself and collect that.
Okay.
Being a public official, I don't think you can take money either over the table or under the table for actions. But, you know, I think there has to be a certain discretion given to staff in terms of dealing with prospective developers. And there are occasions where it's worthwhile to waive those because the outcome is a substantial amount.
Why should the people of Northfield Township pay?
The people of Northfield Township pay one way or another. If the fee that is charged causes a development not to occur, as you've pointed out and many others, then that's something detrimental, and the board has asked me to look into.
They
what our
do
fee
nothing
structure
for
is.
us. If we needed something from MDOT, we will pay.
Mr. Dockett, let's move on here to the next item.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to Mr. Dockett anytime about
Sure.
these issues, so thank you, Mr. Dockett.
And he's not shy of coming in to do so feel free. Go ahead, Ms. Zelenock.
So on the status of the second floor, I see that we're making some progress outside this room of cleaning up some of the stuff that's been there for a few board meetings. When do we think we'll have the rest of it cleaned up?
Well, in talking with your legal counsel, if there's an item that has no value, I can get rid of it. And we talked today through Jennifer with our trash hauler that we're allowed to put items like broken chairs and so on out with our normal collection, and they'll take it. However, anything that potentially has a value, we have to make an effort to sell in some fashion. I understand my predecessor at one point advertised an auction that lasted about 5 minutes, but it did give people the option if they wanted to buy any of the items. And I suspect we'll do something similar to that. Unless someone wants to make a bid to buy it all, I'd be happy to bring that back to the board.
I have a question for Chief. When's the police auction? Is it possible that we could put it in there, or do you do one annually, semi-annually?
We did one in the fall. We generally do it every couple years. We
Oh,
don't
okay.
have that many, we don't
Okay.
have that much property currently, so we did when we sold all the police cars at that Chelsea auction was the
Okay.
last time.
All right. Can we just put like a little sticker on there and say for 2 months it's up for sale? Does that work? Would that meet the requirement? And just say, you know, announce it at the board meeting, put it in our agenda that say for, you know, a month or two, here's the price? Or do you actually have to auction it?
Well, you can auction it, you can have a sale.
Okay.
I mean, we could entertain it as essentially a garage sale and leave it open for 5 minutes and then close the door on it.
Maybe
But-
that would be fine.
But,
Maybe before the meeting, we could have a gathering, and after the meeting.
well, or we could let the board take parts of it home, whatever didn't sell, so, you know, but I think Dan will assure you a lot of that weighs a lot of from his people moving it. But seriously, the state feels that you have to make an effort, good faith effort, to sell any item that has a potential value to it. The concern I have is that the effort doesn't cost you more than the value of the item. And that's what we'd be looking at, trying to minimize what our costs would be.
You can put it on Whitmore Lake Swap and Shop free. I mean, it doesn't cost you to put it on there and put a price on it. It'll go in a minute. I did it.
Okay.
Just real quick,
Chief
when
Wagner.
we did it the last time and we had the auction and we didn't sell anything, what if I remember right, I think we went to a scrapper and allowed them to come and take it for scrap. That saves the manpower, and for us to pay somebody to get rid of it, they'll come take it away for free.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, let's move on to let's get rid of these minutes and all of that, the other reports that got pulled out. Okay, minutes of 13th. Ms. Bellinger, you had a comment about this?
I wanted to add that on the 13th, under the, on the first page where it says pledge, we should add that the invocation was by Bellinger, offered by Bellinger. This is on the March 13th regular meeting minutes.
Okay. Yeah, there's no invocation there, okay. Okay, any more changes to that one?
I did not.
No, okay. And so then, and the change I have on March 27th is I'd like under sewer service rate study results, it's Brian Rubel, introduced Vic Cooperwasser, and Rubel is spelled R-U-B-E-L. And so there's another Rubel further down, halfway down between sewer service rate study and the bottom on the first page. Those were the only things that I saw of those. Any other corrections on those? Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to adopt the minutes as amended. Support. Motion by Chalkley, support by Chick. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? No? Okay, thank you. The next item is the wastewater treatment plant report. Someone had a question about that. Anybody have a question about the wastewater treatment plant report?
I asked the question before the meeting started.
Okay. I guess.
I just like the updates, so like your little update.
Okay. Would you,
If you can see in the report, we had a sewer main break over on Main Street. That's the second break in a year on that force main from the pump station. We're going to probably try and get a price on replacing that this year on capital improvements to replace that line before we had any more
Okay.
problems.
Where
in
is
the next
that
budget year.
located?
Just north of the county line, where it makes the curve there.
Okay.
There's an apartment building on the lake side. It's right across the street from that.
Okay.
Where is it? On North Main?
Yeah, in the Green Oak side of North Main there.
is it age-related and it's caving in, or?
It's deteriorating pipe, we think, but we're
Okay.
not sure. You can't really tell
Okay.
why he's doing it.
Is it on the lake side or on the?
No, it's across from the lake.
Okay.
The last one, it just formed a little hole in his driveway and nothing spilled out. So we got that one relatively easy.
Okay.
And then
Did Spiegelberg do it?
on the 23rd, we had a sewer spill down in Horseshoe Lake. Manhole backed up due to a plug in our sewer line. And that went, nobody noticed it for at least a few days. We don't know how long. And we avoided putting any sewage in the lake, and we cleaned that up relatively easy. Once we found the problem, we got the line opened up within an hour and avoided any more damage down there.
In-house or did Spiegelberg do it?
In-house.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, and then somebody had a question about the assessing report?
Yeah, that
Hopefully I
was
can
me.
answer.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if anybody here would be able to answer it, but it just, on the first page, these ratios, I'm just kind of curious. It says these different increases. Now, do I actually, I guess it is as it says, these are overall assessment increases for these particular types of properties? Is that correct?
Well,
Like for residential, it says 2.75 for instance?
it's a complicated thing that he goes through and he does the assessments of the different properties and comes up with a value, and then that's compared to what the county requires. And so this is when I read this, I thought somebody's going to have an issue with this. But in order to make sure that the ratio in the end is between, if you look here.
49 and 50, yeah.
Yep, 49 and 50, they have to make an adjustment of these different ratios from the beginning to the final. So if you see further down in the report where the final ratios are, and they're all less than the 50 required by statute.
Okay. But, so is it, okay, let's say I have a piece of industrial property.
Yep.
Is my property now going to be assessed at an average of 18% higher than it was the last assessment?
18% higher?
That's what
No.
it says in here. That's why I'm asking.
I would refer you to Mr. Monchak for that.
Okay.
But what he has to do is level them out. So what property doesn't stay the same. You know, it goes up and down, sale prices go up and down, and the SEV is set at approximately 50% of its fair market value of its sale price. And because it fluctuates a little bit, there is an adjustment that's made every year between the beginning where they start with and then at the final, after the Board of Review takes a look at them. So
I can take it to him and,
Mr. Monchek.
okay, I don't want to
yes,
eat up a lot of time, I just,
be prepared for a half an hour discussion on how assessing is.
yeah, I just am curious in a nutshell,
2
if
hours?
I have an industrial piece of property, am I looking at approximately an 18% increase in assessment from the year before? I guess I'll take that question to him, but that
That's-
was my question.
That's possible, yes.
Thanks.
Okay. Any more questions on that one? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the Kiwanis proposal for 75 Barker. And who is talking about this item? Oh, yep, make sure it's turned on, yep.
I belong to Kiwanis Club, Whitmore Lake,
Okay.
and I'm going to speak for a few minutes on
Hol-
Kiwanis.
Hold it right, take it out and hold it right up to your mouth.
Okay.
Perfect.
I will speak for a few minutes on Kiwanis. Most of you know Kiwanis. Kiwanis has been in Whitmore Lake for over 70 years. In that time, they've funded many worthwhile causes, the parade being one of them. Also, we do book bingo at the schools. We do leadership programs. We do the Easter egg hunt. We give scholarships. We fund many of the libraries and the community centers projects. And just all around, all over where we needed, we jump in and help. And we've always did fundraisers. And in the last few years, we've been very lucky. Polly Market has helped us run the Kiwanis rummage sale store, which was a blessing because most of the Kiwanians are getting older. Actually, Mr. Dockett, most of them are older than you are. Wow. Yeah. It's old. And that's the truth, too. And over the years, in the last few years, we've managed to raise over $10,000 a year to help the town. We've also put in over 500 hours a month of volunteer service. And like I said, we had Polly's help with the store, and due to circumstances beyond anybody's control, we don't have that store anymore, and that's why we're here tonight, because we were looking around for some building or some place that we could continue the store. The town loves the store. Kiwanis likes to have the store. It's a great meeting place for folks. It does a good service. There's a lot of people that don't have a lot of money, and our prices are pretty low. And we turn the money back into fundraisers for the town, things for the town. So it's really a win-win. And that's why we're here tonight, is to talk about that building and what we can do with it. And I'm going to have Andy, who is our newest Kiwanian, come forward, and he's going to present proposal A, and I'll get back up here and try B.
Okay, I'm Andy Lakatos, and I'm a member of Kiwanis as of last September or thereabouts. Do I need an address in any of that?
You're
Don't
good.
need it, okay. Anyway, so I'm up here to read about Proposal A. Proposal A talks about the fact that the club from Whitmore Lake purchased the property at 75 Barker Road from the township, Northfield Township, for $1, and with the following conditions of use. One is restoration. The Kiwanis Club will restore the exterior look of the historic building while modernizing the facility with new paint, windows, exterior light fixtures, and awnings. We'll then refurbish the building as well. The facility is to satisfy the building codes, the Michigan building codes, for the use as a store, Whitmore Lake Kiwanis store, and a community center. The refurbishment will be planned over two phases. Phase 1, upgrade the first floor bathrooms, the entries to be ADA compliant, structural engineering and fire mitigation improvements along with electrical wiring and plumbing to code throughout the building. Installation of furnace and water treatment system as needed. Phase 2, we would then take on the additions of adding an elevator for the ADA accessibility to the second floor, refurbishment of the second floor bathrooms to the ADA compliant, upgrade the kitchen, bringing the electrical and plumbing up to code. Capital expenditures are to exceed $50,000 over the next 2 to 5 years. Excuse me. As far as the community parking is concerned, the club will agree to turn over 75 parking facilities to Northfield Township to use as community parking. The usage agreement of the community parking will be in perpetuity as long as the Kiwanis Club owns 75 Barker Road. Satisfying conditions, if for whatever reason the Kiwanis Club does not satisfy the above conditions for use, the Northfield Township reserves the right to purchase back the property for the price that it was sold, plus the cost of capital improvements made by the Kiwanis Club of Whitmore Lake. The club will be required to keep records of such improvements with costs and date of completion, reporting those records to Northfield Township on an annual basis. The right of first refusal by the Northfield Township will have the right on any sale offered made for the property. Thank you, and Margaret will be back here for proposal B.
Proposal B. This basically says that the Kiwanis Club of Whitmore Lake will utilize 75 Barker for a weekly Saturday community event with the following conditions of use. We'll submit a civic permit to use the first floor of 75 Barker on Saturdays only. We'll comply with all requirements of the civic event permit, inclusive of certificate of insurance. We will donate to Northfield Township 25% of our store's monthly proceeds, not to exceed $6,000 annually, and to be set aside for the capital improvements of 75 Barker. We are a 501c4, and we can get grants, and we will try to get grants on behalf of Northfield Township with the Kiwanis International Grants and Community Grants to acquire funds for capital improvements. We pledge to raise another $4,000 a year for capital improvements on top of the 25%. And actually, what we'd like to do is we would like to have a partnership with you folks. We're your community, and you're our community. And we don't want to lose that fire hall if we can keep it. And we'd like to be able to continue our work for this town. And of course, we'd have this, all the things Andy said about the first refusal and all that, there's no point going over it again. But we'd like to form some kind of a partnership with the township. We already have partnerships kind of with the library, with the community center. We fund a lot of their stuff. We work together with them. This is a nice small town, and we can all work together to do this. And in order to do that, though, we do need to get that first thing in here, which is we will utilize 75 Barker for a weekly Saturday community event. And I hope you consider us. We try to work hard for the community, and we would like to fix up that building. Thank you.
Okay.
Answer any questions, I will.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Dockett.
I would like to know if we're talking about the north part of the first floor. I mean, we have the other part rented to a medical outfit. So when you say first floor, I'm wondering, are you talking about the complete? Okay, so we're talking about the north part that's empty right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, the original building.
Excuse me?
The original building.
Put,
I turned it, oh, no, I guess I didn't. The original building, not where the medical place is.
Okay.
It's just the actual fire hall bays. At least at this point, someday, we'd like to do the upstairs. But right now,
Well,
no.
that's more than your 50,000. You're gonna need
Well, we know.
$500,000 for.
We know, but hey.
For an elevator. Thank you.
Well, you know, it is what it is, and maybe we can get some grants. And we're gonna work at it. Why not? Any other questions, anybody?
Ms. Chick?
Actually, that's what I was wondering, is you've done any kind of cost analysis on exactly what it would cost to bring it up to code?
No, because if we get it to use and we can use it on Saturdays, then we'll get into that. But if we can't find a place somewhere to run our rummage sale, we can't, put money into that building.
Okay.
So we kind of haven't gone there yet. But we're willing to, put out the money that we need to as we work along. Anybody else?
I don't have any questions. I have some comments and some concerns, but more logistical. So I guess, no, I don't need you up here. So my questions are more with the township's legal obligations. And so I know that when we have so talking about the $1 deal, when we have other properties for sale, say we've got parcels all over the place, if we were going to sell them, we have to auction them, don't we, and get a reasonable price for them. Is that correct?
You have to get fair market value.
Fair market value.
Whether you do it through an auction or getting an appraisal and then selling it to somebody for that, you have to get fair market value.
Right, okay.
Does that normally have to do with the tax, because of the way that it was given back over to the township because of the tax sales, or of how we acquired it?
No, it's just the nature of public property. It's the same reason why Mr. Ains gave the example of the personal property, even though we don't want the chairs anymore. If they're still good chairs, per the Michigan Constitution, you're compelled to get fair market value for it.
So that goes for our buildings and things like that. So
Correct.
like $1 would kind of be not in the realm of possibility.
I'm not an appraiser, but I'd be surprised.
Okay. So that question, would it be a different situation if we were to sell it to the DDA, for instance? Because that's a governmental entity associated with us. Would that have to be market value also? Okay.
Yes, it would.
I'm just asking all these questions because I was thinking about them. So the other thing is there's an obligation to charge fair market rent also? That's true?
Correct.
Down there, if we rent it out. The question is, what's fair market?
Right, and when you get into fair market rent, you've got a little bit different ballgame, because just like we had down here, we're keeping this building. So if they're going to come in and do a bunch of improvements that we want, well, then that's part of the consideration for the deal. It's not just the money, it's that we're getting the improvements as well. So if we're keeping the building, that's one thing, but if we're going to sell it for $1 to get a whole bunch of improvements done for it, we don't get the benefit of the improvements, so
Sure.
it doesn't make a difference. But yeah, when you start talking about leasing, you have different considerations.
Okay. Then the other part of it is, my understanding is we have an obligation to protect the health and safety of users of a facility that is subpar. So that's my concern, where there might be something dangerous associated with that building, and it might be needing to be brought up to code before we could sort of let it out, for use elsewhere. I don't know that that's the case with it. I do know that it does have its challenges. So that's more of a statement than a question. And then I also was wondering, this board had talked about maybe developing a strategy for that building. And the DDA certainly has developed to talk about a strategy for that building, because it's kind of an anchor area, a historic area in the downtown. So what is its best use into the future? And that could very well be partially Kiwanis, partially businesses, or who knows what. It could be a civic center for gatherings. If the upstairs were ever done, it could be a concert hall again, or something for weddings and who knows what. But again, the cost to do that is kind of a barrier for us. So I appreciate all of the input, and I'm thinking it would be helpful to bring the players together to brainstorm about its uses and the configuration for its uses and how to manage that building, where we could actually have something that would be an amenity for the community. And maybe it's changing out, certain portions of it to be used for something else, and seeing what we can do, But I certainly don't disagree that it would be a good use for portions of it for Kiwanis. I am concerned about us following the rules, and if we're going to have a retail business in there, we've got to make sure it's safe and it meets the code for that. So I don't know that proposal B would make it yet either, but I think with all of the goodwill and the smarts of all the people involved in this, I think something could, some proposal could be put together where everybody won on this one. So those are my thoughts, and I'll just throw it out there for other people's thoughts. Mr. Dockett.
I want to be careful here, but I'm not sure if you guys were on the board, but 8-9 years ago, we sold that building to All-Star Alarm that is across the street. We actually sold it. And they listed it, and it was probably listed for about 6 months, around that. And we got $150,000 for it at that time. And we signed up, we sold it. Merzerkowitz was on vacation, so she come back and had a fit about us selling that. And the lady who sold it ended up being our supervisor before this board. And she lost her money that she would have made on selling it for. But anyway, we took it back. We told it. So that was a price that we got for it after it was listed for about 6 months because of the condition, So I don't know if that helps anybody on the board or not, but I just thought I would throw it in.
Ms. Bellinger.
I mean, is it feasible for the board to pursue or to find a way to rent the facility to Kiwanis? I mean, we talked about this a couple meetings ago, and it would be nice to find some way to somehow, I'd like to see that happen, and them being interested also in helping with refurbish to some degree as they're offering, I don't know, something. I think just flat out selling it might be the thing to do. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's what we're here for, is try to figure out, sort through things and make a some kind of decision, but I really would like Kiwanis to find some kind of home here in the community, that's for sure. And they have an interest in this structure, so I would like to see them do something if it's possible.
We were told at the time that we had to list it and sell to the highest bidder. I was on the board.
Well, yeah. Ms. Chick?
Mr. Dockett, was that for the firehouse portion, or was that for the entire thing? Okay.
The total building and property. And the property goes back, you know, quite a ways because the old police department used to sit there. So there's quite a bit of property there almost to Margaret. There's only maybe 60, 70 feet from Margaret. So it's a big field. It's all grass now, but there used to be the police department there before we moved here.
Well, I think it'd be most appropriate to pull together a group to go ahead and do the brainstorming and find a path forward. And I would think that, well, I know the DDA has a vested interest in this, and I suspect that somebody has talked to the DDA. I'm seeing their name mentioned here about restoration of the second floor. So I know that everybody's interested in this building. So I'm thinking that we could get together a committee to actually see what can be done and come forward with some recommendations. I hate to see it sitting there just deteriorating. It doesn't look good. I mean, throwing paint on it's not going to help it. I mean, it really is in deteriorating condition, and it has its challenges. I happened to bring up the pictures that were downstairs that Mr. LaFave put together of it because, you know, it gives you a vision for maybe what it could look like if somebody wanted to do some TLC with it. And then the inside. And it was intended to be a senior center at the time. But, anyway. So. But I'm not willing to give up on 75 Barker. I think it has a lot of potential. Ms. Bellinger, you have a comment?
Is there any concerns with competing interests on this property? Is this what I kind of sense? That there may be competing interests on this property that there's some concerns with?
I can mention that the DDA would like to see something that's open every day of the week there that could draw people downtown. Businesses, you know, retail offices, you know, that would have more people downtown. And I don't think that they want to preclude Kiwanis because that brings people downtown, but it's only for a day or, you know, 2 half days or something a week. And ideally, it'd be nice to have a business incubator in there. And I think there's plenty of space there for a lot of different uses. And I think there are a lot of intelligent people that can put together a plan and have something that everybody wins. So those are my thoughts, and I thought it'd be a great idea to sit down and just talk about it.
Can I?
Ms. Zelenock, oh, she hasn't
I'm
gotten
sorry.
a chance to speak yet.
So first of all, I'd like to again disclose that I am a board member of Kiwanis. But you mentioned, Madam Supervisor, about getting a committee together. So how do we do that, and how do we get things moving? Because I know the board had brought up, I don't know, maybe 4 months ago that there was a motion to let Kiwanis use it for the rummage sale. And so how do we move forward as opposed to continue discussions?
I don't know what, the building is just not appropriate for retail. I mean, I'm thinking it'd be great if you guys could just have a massive garage sale on a weekend and be open for 2 days and sell as much stuff as you've got in there because that wasn't supposed to continue to be stored in there. But that would make some money. It would remove some of the stuff that's in there and allow some space to actually investigate it a little better and then see where we're going with it. But I don't know what the rules are for, you know, civic event and what's appropriate. Yeah, they've had sold the trees out of there, but now we should be treating everyone the same. And so if we do a civic event, let's figure out how to do it properly and do it.
So
Ms.
we've
Otto.
had civic events in there, we've had the DDA have an event in there,
Yep.
we've had a town hall meeting in there.
We have.
We've had numerous events in there where the parade committee stores their carts in there during the parade. This has gone on not just for a year, this has gone on for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
So now all of a sudden we stop.
I'm not
And I also want to disclose that I am also a member of the Kiwanis as well. So if there is a vote or there is a decision, I cannot vote or I cannot make a decision.
Ms. Manley.
My concern, again, is the safety. I mean, I'm all for Kiwanis, you know, utilizing the building. But I guess also the thought, if we give Kiwanis the weekly Saturday, you know, civic permit, does that restrict anybody else from using it? And is that safe and is that fair?
Ms. Chick.
So it's kind of confusing because if it's not safe enough for the Kiwanis to move in there, then it's not safe enough for anybody to be in there until the building is brought up to code. So that would include special events. So we have to make a decision. Are we going to just not use the building at all? Yeah, right. It also means DDA. And in regards to the committee, maybe the Kiwanis should meet with the DDA and present their proposal, and maybe that could be a start, at least to get some feedback from each other and come up with something, maybe.
Yeah, I agree with that. Mr. Dockett.
I agree too, but before we do anything, the ones that can vote on this board should make up our mind. Do we feel good about voting for one entity to work to have this building? What do we do if we do it for one? Where do we stop? I mean, it's a slippery slope. So, I mean, would I feel good about saying the Kiwanis is the only one that could use it? How about Living Water Church? Or, you know, so what do we do when they come and ask? So I think before we spend any money or go through any of this, the ones that can vote on this board, what is there, 5 of us? We need to decide if we're going to vote for this or not. I don't like to see a bunch of money spent and maybe promise these people something and then end up that it's not going to pass anyway. So I think we need to examine our conscience to find out where we're going here.
I think we should put together a subcommittee and work on it hastily. I mean, I know they're anxious to get their sales going again, and so they need to know. Go ahead.
I mean, sorry, I
No,
agree
no,
with
fine.
what Mr. Dockett is saying. And, except, but we can't choose Kiwanis over anybody else, is where he's going with it, so, I mean, that puts us in a tough place. And, you know,
Or if we are we going to do it or not?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So, yeah. So I have, again, two thoughts on this. In the meantime, with the board, again, being a Kiwanis member and a board member, but in the meantime, would, you know, the board be okay if we go back to what we used to do? We used to have like 2 to 3 rummage sales a year. So until it can be decided on what to do, can we do that?
It's fine with me.
And then on the other comment, just in general, is yeah, we may have competing interest, obviously, right now. But just as we did as a board on LawNet, I mean, if someone comes and you determine the fair market value, we want to use, you know, a entity, be it Kiwanis, be it the DDA, that you would go into a rental agreement. And then, yes, at that point, you are saying, we have decided to go into a rental agreement with this entity. And that's, I think, what Proposal B was meant to be. But in the meantime, until we can maybe iron this out, I think Kiwanis would, and maybe one of the members could come up and speak, but would like to, you know, have their kind of couple times, 3 times a year rummage sale. So that,
Okay.
comments.
I'm okay with the rummage sale. There's a lot of stuff in that Barker, in 75 Barker, that needs to get out of there so we can clean it up. So rummage sales are good at this point, so I don't know. Do we need a vote for a rummage sale? I mean, can they make an application, or is this a problem? They'd have to make an application. Are we getting ourselves into trouble, Mr. Maines?
I don't know what the status of this is with regard to the building department at present, but I will say from my chair, I have a concern if somebody with a building certification has said that the property is not safe to be used for a certain use, whether it's being used for that use 1 day a year or 365 days a year. If somebody gets hurt when you're on actual notice that there's a building code problem with the building, that's a serious liability situation.
Okay.
So I don't know what the current status of that is. I don't know if we're talking about a different use than was entertained previously, but all I'm here to say is 1 day a year, 365 days a year, it doesn't make a difference from a liability perspective.
Okay. Can we find that out then? I mean, we could find that out.
Right.
And see what the situation is.
Are we going to table this?
Yeah, then maybe we can, well, it's not the time to make a decision anyway, but this is great information, a great discussion, and it puts some stuff on the table that we can deal with.
We have,
And
I think it would be good to listen to Mr. Lakatos has a statement or question.
Go ahead. Yep.
I don't know, no, it's not on, it's still on. The only question or comment I would make is if we're going to find out about that legal issue there, is that maybe Kurt can go in there and find out exactly, for example, the first floor, what would really need to be done to make it safe. And he's got enough knowledge there that he can give us an opinion. And that's all you would really need to make an honest judgment on that part. And so that would, and then that I think would take care of the legal part. And we could, as our group, we would have to carry the insurance to cover the liabilities of any injuries or anything like that. So I mean, that's all part of the program. But I think that would certainly help you up here if Kurt could do that and find out exactly what needs to be done so that we can run stuff, or whoever else could run stuff in that place. And by the way, we're the only ones that have asked.
Yeah. Ms. Otto.
Another alternative, and thank you for making the comment, is that we could have an event outside of the building and therefore just move, you know, if we had to do a rummage sale outside the building. Yeah.
With tents or something, yeah.
And
Yeah.
Madam
Ms.
Chair,
Zelenock.
I had a comment in regards to Mr. Lakatos. I think at a couple board meetings ago, we had entertained and had the suggestion that Green Oak would come and look at it and see as well, get a second opinion. Is there any progress on that?
I did get it was a change of use issue and I did get a response from Green Oak that I sent over there. It wasn't any different than what would have or has come out of our own department.
Okay, and I mean, I think that's good to know on both, in particular, not just for the Kiwanis, not just for this building, but I have heard and heard and heard from the public how much easier it is to work with Green Oak. And so that was the reason I had made that request, is to see that the state laws are state laws. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, well, we'll take this under advisement. We'll take a look at what Kurt has to say about it, and see if we can put some, I would think, put a small committee together to talk about it and to see what we can do that will benefit everybody.
Do we have any dates? I mean, right now, Kiwanis has a committee together.
Yep.
So how do we go and approach the DDA? Who should we do? How should we go about that?
The DDA meets on the 23rd of April. Maybe that would be a good meeting to talk together. That's a Monday.
Okay.
Is that I'll see if Barb Griffith can coordinate with y'all to do something like that. How's that?
That's fine.
Okay.
It works. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Bellinger, sorry.
If there is a subcommittee formed, I may be interested. I might have time to be a part of it.
Okay. Okay, great. All right, thank you very much for coming in. All right, next item, civic event application. Item 1. Do we have any, Mr. Ains, would you, or who's talking about the civic event application? We don't have Dennis here. Chief, hi.
Sure. So this is just a standard application we go through every year, and probably about a month before the fireworks I get together and work out all the details to make sure that everything's covered. One of the issues that we do have this year with it, as far as police and fire coverage, is they chose the date of June 30th, which also happens to be Adjournment Park, their first date, which I believe you'll see that civic event permit at the next one. So we're gonna, and we've done it before, it's gonna spread us pretty thin, but we will work together, and the fireworks committee promised me in the future they will run a date by me before bringing it. And they've got all their plans done and permits that are prepared. So we're gonna make it work again this year. The one thing I would request from either the board, maybe it's more for the Parks committee, to see some either signs or rules posted in the park as to expectations such as open alcohol, no open alcohol out there, or how long can a car remain in the park, which this actually kind of goes along with 75 Barker parking lot. We had a car parked there for about 3 or 4 months, and so we finally we actually put a 72-hour tag on it a couple of different times from the police department, and the second time we were about to tow it, and we were able to make contact with the owner, and the owner had it towed for us. So just if we could think about that you guys decide who should do that, but we should have some no swimming signs posted along the water, some no open alcohol signs, and possibly some rules for animals on leashes. And those are just some things I thought of off the top of my head. Before, and that doesn't really have anything to do with the civic event permit, but it's kind of does. So,
Okay.
But I have no problem with the event permit as it's been presented.
Okay. I have a question about I think we should have these. It's a liability.
Right.
With the fact that we have these facilities and buildings and stuff. One of the sessions I attended at the last MTA thing was talking about township liability, and we really do need to develop a building use policy, and we need to take a look at our signage. So thank you for bringing that up again. It's something we need to get on. I did notice in here, it says on page 3, do you plan to use vendors or exhibitors? And it didn't circle yes or no. And, but then there's a listing of a couple vendors, so it looks like they are planning to have vendors. And it seems to me there was some brouhaha last year about the vendor situation. Could you describe what happened in your...
There was, and it had to do with whether they were required to have permits. And I can't remember if it was a peddler's permit or just what it was. And there was some upset people, vendors that showed up. And in fact, one showed up and he started to set up in a place where I had talked to the fireworks committee previous to that because he was too close to the road, and we wanted to get all the vendors on the one side of the road where it was safer for people that were making purchases, and so he was so upset he just picked up and left, and which made it better for Marco's because they sold all their pizza that night. But he was upset about the permit and how much he was supposed to pay or not pay, and so that's something, you know, that we need to have a conversation with the 4th of July committee. It really was a miscommunication on their part between the fireworks committee and this particular vendor. It wasn't anything we did wrong, so.
Okay. And
What do they pay, Chief? They pay a percentage, or do they pay?
No, it's just a flat, I want to say it's $50, $5. I thought it was $50.
I thought it was 40, but...
Okay, maybe 40.
It's 40.
Yeah, okay.
You might have some signs about, now that park's there might be boats that pull up there and want to walk across our property, you know,
Yeah, we actually...
Or fishermen, or
Yeah.
somebody maybe just shouldn't use that.
We have that...
Unless you got a safe, or, you know, somebody there, a guard.
We do, because that's an emergency access for us to the lake and the barge for fire or rescue type stuff. So we keep that pretty well.
Yeah, but boats could pull up.
Absolutely, and they do.
Are they planning to have parking help? Are they planning to park on our property?
I'm guessing they are, but I don't see that
I
as
don't
part
see
of
that
this.
in
So
here either.
they will need to come back and make that request.
Okay. The fee for peddlers is so that the township does the background check and makes sure
Correct.
that these people are not taking people's money.
Right, and an issue we had 2 years ago was we had one that had gotten a peddler's permit, and they were selling those glow sticks and stuff like that. And then we had another group that was selling the glow sticks that showed up and was selling them, and they didn't have a permit, so we ended up removing the one peddler. So.
Okay. Okay. It says that they're also not requiring electrical service. It seemed like there was some sort of a radio band or something going on.
They have a DJ, and they do use that that pole there that does have electricity on it. So I don't know if that's changed or.
Who pays for the electricity?
The Kiwanis of
Club.
Whitmore Lake.
Is it yours?
Yes.
It's
It is
your pole?
ours. It's
Yes,
our pole.
It's our pole.
It's our electricity. No, it's actually
We pay-
DTE's, but we pay the bill.
We pay a bill
I
every month.
never knew who paid that.
Really?
I assumed the township did.
New,
No, we pay it.
sponsored by Kiwanis.
There is a sign down there that says sponsored by Kiwanis.
That's cool. Thank you.
Who owns it?
Okay.
Well, I believe DTE owns the pole, but
Oh.
we pay the bill because it comes to us. So it was
Okay.
put in our name a long time ago for, I believe, the ski show.
All right. Those are all my questions.
So we're
go
going to
ahead.
approve the permit. Is that the motion with the fact that they have to come back about the parking? Because are they charging for parking? And is
Yeah,
it going to be the same with pond hockey? I believe they charge for parking and they were going to give us $500. Is that the same?
Ooh. Well, they could make some money to pay off their fireworks if they parked and.
I know,
it
so
was
what
part of it,
is
so-
from, they're gonna be using the parking lot, if they say they're not going to charge an admission fee, are they gonna be charging for parking? So
I'm not
do we-
sure, but I think what they do is accept donations.
Yeah, and so, again, pond hockey did the same, but are we going to ask a donation to the township?
Are you proposing that?
Well, I'm just saying, to be
Uh,
consistent.
To be consistent, there
I
was
mean,
an
we-
amount.
Yeah, I mean, we did that,
Yeah.
I mean, it's only one day, so maybe we take a third, 500 divided by 3.
Well, the DDA had made a recommendation for a fee, and I
Right.
can't remember how much it was. It was minimal, $100 for so many cars, or
Right.
it was
So-
pretty minimal.
But I mean, it would have been good if Dennis had been here,
Yeah,
because I think we have questions, so. I'd like him to come back.
well, he has plenty
How's
of
his
time.
wife? She,
Pardon me?
is she ill?
We
What-
can pen this
Because I
until
Right.
he comes back.
Yeah, I
or
think we should
updates
make
his
the request
application.
that he comes back with these questions about the vendor, about the parking,
Okay. Yep,
and that, yeah, we need someone to be able to answer our questions.
okay,
I'm all for it. I just think it would be more efficient.
yeah. Okay, well, I'll make a motion to postpone until Dennis Kazan can come in and talk to us at a future board meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Chalkley, support by Zelenock to postpone. Okay, any more discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No? Okay. We could theoretically go ahead and approve this resolution for the road closure.
I'm
I'll
fine
make
with
a
that.
motion that we approve resolution 18-583 for the road closure for the fireworks.
I'll support.
Okay, motion by Bellinger, support by Otto. Any discussion on this one? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No? Okay, great, that passes. The next item is the request for a pay increase for Hunter Lewis. I'd like to make a motion to increase Hunter Lewis's base pay from $14.42 per hour to $15.
Support.
Motion by Chalkley, support by Chick. Any discussion on this one? Mr. Dockett?
We could have put this ahead with the rest of his. He could have went home. It's only 50 cents. I'll bid on you.
Okay. Ms. Otto?
Well, I know it's only 50 cents, but I wanted to know, is it enough
Is
in
it
the
in the
budget
budget?
to cover it?
But we made him sit here all the
Okay.
time. I
Yeah,
mean,
we have enough in the budget, and
Okay.
when I hired him originally, I had it in my mind to pay him $15 an hour, and somehow it ended up at $30,000 a year, which is not $15 an hour, so
Okay.
it's more a correction than really a raise.
So any more discussion on this? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, no, that passes. Thank you. Sorry for the longness of this. All right. Next item is the MDOT request to waive fees. Okay, so I would like to make a motion. Well, to waive all the in-house fees associated with the MDOT park and ride. So that does not waive the zoning application fee, the site plan. But it does waive the $50, and it also waives the $500 for the lot split if it occurs. So that's all done in-house. So that's my motion, but I want to speak, let me get a second, and then I want to speak to it. Do I get a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Chalkley and support by Manley. The park and ride, this is interesting. I got a call about the park and ride some time ago, and it's going to have solar streetlights on it. And the reason it's going to have solar streetlights is because I had requested MDOT take a look at solar lights on the 8 Mile bridge so that we wouldn't have to pay the electricity for those. I figured they could generate their own electricity and the township wouldn't have to pay. So I got a call about the MDOT Park and Ride while they were developing it, and they said, Mark Sweeney said, well, I know you're going to ask this, so he had his staff look into it, putting in solar streetlights so that we wouldn't have an electric bill associated with that park and ride. It will cost MDOT more money to do solar streetlights, but it will cost us less money to do, because
Why
we won't
would
have
we
to pay the
pay,
electricity.
excuse me, but why
Because
are we paying for
we
the
pay
park, for the park and ride?
We pay streetlights for all of our streets, and they can't pay the electricity for the streetlights. Yeah,
For the park and ride.
but
It's not, it's on state land.
most park and rides don't have any light except for one at the entrance. This one's going to be a relatively well-lit park and ride that will have bus service to it, which will serve our residents, and the lighting will be an amenity and it will be a safety feature for that park and ride. So I'm just saying, they're actually going out of their way to help with this. They also put together a committee of their staff to take a look at us potentially doing the non-motorized trail from Barker Road to the park and ride. So I know that they're expending their staff time to help us. And, okay, but it's all of our tax money. So they're expending their staff time to help us too. So I just want to say that sometimes it's about the relationship, and you get more than you anticipate if you can work together. So this is a minimal amount of money. It's in-house. Tom just, looks at the lot split, says, okay, that's how they get their address. So that's fairly minimal. I know they've asked for their site plan review fees to be waived, but we do have to pay our zoning administrator and our planner. So,
And we do have to pay $2,000 a year for the lights on the bridge.
no, that was an overestimate, but
Well, it says $2,000, it's $4,000.
we'll wait till we get the bill, but they
And,
believe it
and
was
the
an
bridge
overestimate.
is only 10% in our township. It's 90% in Green Oak. Why are we paying half when we only have 10%
Okay.
of the bridge in our township?
Okay, that was the deal that Mr. Fink made and the prior board made, and we're honoring that deal.
It was not
Okay.
the prior, oh yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was.
Sorry, it was.
It was. So,
It
anyway,
was.
But
a mistake.
but I will say, the prior board also investigated putting solar lights on that bridge too, and we were told no.
yeah, I was told no. It was too late, but.
No, we were even told no when at the beginning.
Okay. So anyway, we're hoping that, that this all works out really well for the park and ride. So that's my motion to waive all the in-house fees associated with the MDOT park and ride.
Can we get a figure?
It'll be the $50 that Mr. Ains already
What
waived.
total figure are you talking about?
And $500 for the lot split application. If it's
$550.
needed, so $550.
Well, let's use 550 rather
Okay.
than,
Okay, I don't know if there'll be any other in-house fees, but I doubt it.
Okay, so the numbers on this aren't accurate?
Which ones?
Well, we have a number of 200, we have number 1,200 on here, we have 1 to 200, we have 500, and then we
Yeah.
have the 50 that was already spent, so.
No, what
is,
the ones that I'm talking about is the $500 for the lot split. That's done in-house.
this is what we would waive?
Right, and then the $50 that Mr. Ains already waived.
And the lot split's not even a guarantee.
It's
It
supposed
says
to be
if.
done. Right, we're trying to get out of doing that. They were trying to get out of doing that. They said that they don't have to because they're MDOT. And we're saying, oh, yes, you do. So we're working that out right now.
So what happened to the 1,200? They're going to pay the 1,200?
I didn't make a motion to waive that, so no, they're gonna pay it. I'd be happy if we didn't, but we have to pay our zoning administrator and our planner, so it's gonna cost us. So we should.
The taxpayer pays.
I still say no to
That's
this.
correct.
I still say no to this MDOT business here.
So again, could you clarify?
I'm
I'm
only
confused by
asking
the memo Mr. Ains wrote. I don't know at this point what we're asking to be waived.
Okay, I'm asking for $550 worth of fees to be waived,
Okay, and the 50,
not to exceed $550.
and the $50 is for
The address,
address, and the 500 is for
the lot split.
lot split. And then we are requesting, because we, the taxpayers, are paying the rest. And you don't think the lot split would take very long?
No.
Okay,
I mean, it's
got
a
it.
paperwork thing,
Got it. So the request is for $550.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's not a lot, but it's kind of, it's working together.
And based on the street lights or the lights that they're going to put in the parking lot, are they going to be solar?
They are going to be solar, except for the one that is going to be at the 8 Mile, where the driveway goes out onto 8 Mile.
Do we know what that electric bill is gonna be?
I do not know what that electric bill is going to be.
And it doesn't matter where street lights are, the township is responsible for paying the bill?
Well, I have a map for you all that I'll pass out for every single street light that we pay for.
Right, so
relatively
if
soon.
if an entity puts a street light in Park and Ride, we have to pay for that?
Well, MDOT does not pay for their
streetlights?
for street lights.
So no one does?
I don't know how we actually got the street lights to pay for, but it's what we do pay for, so there must be some rule.
Well, don't we have a dark sky? Why don't we force them?
Do you want it dark? Just keep it dark.
Well,
How did we get to pay for streetlights? I don't know, but we do.
if I was
you're looking
putting
at
them
me, I
on
don't
my
have any
parking lot,
idea.
you'd make me put in dark skylights.
Okay.
So
anyway,
got a motion on the floor.
I'm the little
Yeah.
people.
I have a motion on the floor. Chalkley, motion to waive $550, up to $550 of in-house fees.
Roll call.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Manley, yes. Otto?
No.
Zelenock?
No?
Docket?
No.
Bellinger?
No.
Chick? No. Chockley?
Yes. That's too bad. All right, that did not pass.
So does that stop the $50 that our
Yes.
main man?
I believe
Okay.
that does. Good memory.
Thank you very much. Get your money out, son. We'll put it in the coffee fund.
All right, next item is the proposal for streetlight replacement. Okay, so I've been looking into streetlights. I got a cost savings proposal from DTE, and I wanted to pass out for everybody. No, one per person. This is where all of the streetlights are in our township. 2, 3, there should be 3 there. Now, the ones that they're proposing that we will save a lot of money on are the mercury vapor ones, and so they're purple. So you can see the location of all the streetlights that we pay for. The little purple ones are the mercury vapor lights.
I'm colorblind.
They're itty bitty little dots. They're hard to see.
Yeah, they're very hard to see.
I can't see the purple.
I have bigger maps. Here, let's give one
I
of
wish
these.
it had numbers like 1, 2,
There's a
3.
nice one.
I can't tell colors.
Yeah, I blew them up, actually, and the ones that are blown up are because I would like everybody to take one of these maps and go out and make sure that the lights are lit, actually lit. So we'll just assign some to each of everybody and hopefully that want to do this and make sure that the lights are lit. Because we pay for the electricity and the maintenance whether or not they are lit. DTE does not come out and monitor their lights. So if they're not lit, we're still paying for them. The other thing is, if they're not lit and they're not functional, they are replaced for free with an LED. Okay, so if we find any that are not currently lit, they will replace them for free, which will reduce the cost of us, of our conversion. Right now, we have one LED light in the entire township.
I think you just answered all the questions. As they burn out, they get replaced with LED lamps.
Right.
That is the answer to the entire question. That is the answer to the item number 5 that we are looking at. As they burn out one at a time, they will get replaced with LEDs, saving us time and money.
But they're not, it's costing us an extra, to have these currently the way they are, it is costing us an extra $8,697 a year. So the return on investment, if we were to just go ahead and do these all together, the return on investment is 2 years, 2.84 years. But if some of them are already burned out, we can point them out, it will be less than that time. And we'll be saving energy well into the future by replacing these. The other thing is, the mercury vapor lights deteriorate over time, and so the amount of light that they give off is less. It will also be more pleasing if all of the lights are changed at the same time because there'll be different temperature.
Read the last paragraph, please. Everybody.
Okay.
After installation, we have no idea what this is going to cost.
It's not going to be a bad deal. We already have it in the budget.
That's your opinion, but
Okay.
when I read after installation, the total cost is added. So, what do we know what that is? Modification, relocation. If they're relocated or removed or whatever, we got to pay, and we don't know how much that is. It's a bad deal.
Okay.
Otherwise, it should have the price there, in my opinion.
Could we
Go ahead.
request removal of some if they're not needed?
Well, if they're not needed and we requested removal, we wouldn't have to pay the ongoing maintenance fees.
Just looking at some of these dots,
Yeah.
they look like they're like right next to
Okay.
each other.
Okay.
What's it cost to get it removed?
Yeah, people like, well, we should take a look at them and see if they're all appropriate, if they're all on, and then see what we want to do about them. But, you know, it will save us like $65 a light per year on just its maintenance.
The other question is, there's no other bids. We have a bid here from one particular business, period. There's no other contractors suggested or even any other bids mentioned or even suggested on this.
This is DTE.
They own the lights,
They own the lights and they own the electricity. I mean, it's the provider of electricity. We don't really have a lot of options here. But I think saving, almost $9,000 a year is worth it.
There's nobody else can bid on replacing these then, is what this comes down to, if even we desire to do so.
So do we,
Is that correct?
I have been told that you can go ahead and try to get yourself another maintenance company. But then there you are in charge of your lights and you're paying another maintenance company to manage the lights. I've also been told it's more expensive to go that route. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Well, I can tell you in the 2 lower corners on the right-hand side, there are 4 there. For sure.
Okay, let me, they shine in your window.
That's Shadowwood.
Okay, okay,
There's 4 of them there.
okay.
But We just realized, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we realized probably about 5, 6 years ago that we could call to have them replaced. We used to replace them on our own.
Oh, you could?
Yeah, the association was replacing them on our own,
But
the streetlights.
you didn't replace them with LEDs?
Not at the time.
Well, now, mercury vapors, they can't replace anything with mercury vapors because of the mercury, and so they can't do that.
Yeah, the ones that shadow it are HPS.
Yeah. We could, they're not recommending to change those at this time. There's not that many of them, but their high-pressure sodiums are out in the Posey sub. They've got 26 of them out there. I don't know what kind of lights those are, how they look or anything. I haven't driven them out there at nighttime, but anyway. I was just looking for ways to save the township money.
Just-
Go ahead.
Do we have a motion on the floor?
Did I make a motion?
Yeah, an interesting,
No, I didn't.
interesting point, mercury vapor, but yet they forced everybody to get those mercury vapor screwy light bulbs and get rid of our incandescents. Isn't that quite a curious thing? But yet they're trying to tell us now that we can't have those when it comes to streetlights. It's very interesting.
So I would like to make a motion to authorize the township manager to obtain a municipal streetlight purchase agreement from DTE for the mercury vapor streetlight replacement and authorize the signature on the contract pending approval of the township attorney. So motion by Chalkley, support by Chick. Do we have any more discussion on this? Okay, go ahead. Mr. Dockett?
I would like to have the last paragraph analyzed and let us know we don't know what we're voting on until we know what the cost is there, in my opinion.
Well, when they will come out and do an analysis when we decide we would like them to do so. They're not going to come out and do it all ahead of time, but they believe...
You don't understand what I'm saying. It doesn't say what it's going to cost us. After installation, that is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he wants to know what the fees are after installation.
There's it's very secretly put on the very bottom there. I think we need to have that figure before I'm going to vote for it.
Well, if you want additional modification, relocation, or removal, why wouldn't that cost more? Right now, they're just replacing everything that's where in its current location.
It doesn't say anything about my. Where did you read that?
What? In the bottom?
It says after installation.
Right. Yeah, the total cost for additional modification.
Could we make an amendment to the motion and put in the cost that they have
Yeah,
down here?
because there is a
Okay.
fee. And
That says the final cost to convert after rebate, can we just say 25,000? It says 24,710. Can we make that motion?
Okay.
Or an amendment, I'd like to make an amendment to the
Sure.
motion that the final cost to convert after rebate be 24,000, I'll say 25,000.
Okay.
I'll round it up,
Or less. Okay.
or less,
Okay.
not to exceed 25,000. That's
Okay.
my motion. Did you get that motion, Lisa, that amendment?
Okay.
Pardon me?
Okay. So the motion was made by Ms. Zelenock to amend the motion. I'll second that.
The final
amendment.
cost to convert not to exceed $25,000.
To amend the motion to state that the final cost not exceed $25,000.
And that the annual savings, I'll add that to the motion, will be approximately,
Yeah.
$8,700 with a payback period of 2.84 years.
We having discussion?
Okay.
You know, I would like to add that a lot of people find these LED lights to be extremely obnoxiously bright. And maybe before people decide that this is what we want to do, it may be worthwhile actually seeing these in action, the exact thing that we're considering here. some people won't really want these shining in their bedrooms and so on and so forth. And this is something that might be a consideration, just putting it out there.
Where is the one LED?
We have one LED light that you can go look at right now, and it's up there near Margaret Street on Main Street.
Oh, I see it. That kind of by the park.
By the park?
It's on Main Street, yeah. Okay. So, let's see, we need a vote on the amendment.
Oh, I see it.
Do we need a roll call vote, Mr. Dockett, on the amendment? Okay, roll call vote on the amendment, please.
Otto,
Yes.
Chick. Yes. Dockett,
No,
Manley, yes. Bellinger,
Yes, on the amendment.
Chockley,
Yes.
Zelenock.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, that passes. Okay, so then the main motion is to authorize Township Manager to obtain a municipal streetlight purchase agreement from DTE for the mercury vapor streetlight replacement and authorize the signature on the contract pending approval of the Township Attorney, noting that the final cost to convert after rebate will be no more than $25,000, giving an annual savings of $8,700 per year with a payback of 2.84 years.
Question. On the amendment, was it the exact number, 24,710, or was it 25,000?
25, no, it was
I s-
25,000.
I said not to exceed
Yep,
25,000.
Okay, thank you.
okay. Okay. So, roll call vote on that, please.
Zelenock,
what are we voting on?
We're voting on the main motion now to convert the streetlights.
Yes.
you okay, Wayne?
What's that? I don't understand. I thought we just voted on it.
No, we voted on the amendment.
Now we're voting on whether or not to replace the street lamps with LED.
Yep.
A roll call vote.
Okay.
Yep.
Try it again. Zelenock,
Yes.
Dockett,
No,
Chick,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
Bellinger,
No.
Manley, yes. Chockley,
Yes. Thank you, that passes.
I meant to do this in discussion, if I may,
Sure.
Madam Supervisor. I have a call actually into MDOT because when they did the interchanges, the construction property for the flex lane, they actually, I believe, removed the 3 lights over 6 Mile. I don't think the lights are there anymore. So
you're right, there's one missing, I think.
Yes, there is.
I think there's maybe 2 missing. So the one at the end of Whitmore Lake Road, but when you come off, I always get my directions, going southbound, if you come off that interchange, there used to be a street light there. That's no longer there. And I believe there used to be a street light over 6 Mile going east. That's
Yes.
gone.
Yes.
And there may be that one street light might still be there, but I think at least 2 are missing, maybe 3. So I have a call.
I think there's one there, I can't
Yeah,
remember the other
right.
two, though.
So I do have a call into MDOT. I've heard from a few residents that what happened to the streetlights? It's
Yeah.
dark. Because we have North Territorial lit up, and we have 8 Mile, but 6 Mile, they took the lights away.
Yeah. I thought it was out because I had asked them to replace it one time before they put the
Right,
bridge in.
right.
But yeah.
It's gone. I know at least 2 are gone. So at least 2 we won't have to pay for, or MDOT, I have a call.
Replace
Are they
it.
going to come back and put them back up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next item is Resolution 18579. This is Ms. Chick's resolution. I'll let you speak to it,
Right.
Ms. Chick.
I had prepared a bunch of things, I apologize if this takes a long time. But I wanted to address issues before questions come up. And I'll read the memo first. This is not anything unusual. Ex parte is a part of many contracts or agreements with different entities and commissions and boards. Planning Commission does it. My thought is, if it's good for the Planning Commission, it should be good for the board because it basically does the same thing. So it is essential that board members as representatives of our residents participate in discussions, deliberations, and so forth regarding building and zoning applications or proposals presented to the township. This resolution does not exclude board members from the process. Quite the opposite. What it does is allow all board members to speak to the proposal on those occasions it is presented to the board, or when a board decision is required to move forward during the process, which happens many times during the process. This, as opposed to one or any number of board members influencing or giving the appearance of influencing the proposal during the process. The structure of our government requires that elected officials perform their statutory duties as defined by their position. Any other activities they take on is either voluntary or determined by the board. The processing of applications and proposals is an administrative duty. As a board, we have been proactive in contracting and employing professionals with the knowledge and expertise whose responsibility it is to manage building and zoning applications and proposals, and they get paid a lot of money to do that. I feel it is important and in the best interest of the public to keep our processes clean and free from any negative perceptions we can avoid, and follow the Planning Commission's lead in eliminating the appearance of actual influence, collusion, political advantage, or impartiality. Administration should also be vigilant in abiding by the intentions of this resolution. I did provide some documentation, but there's a lot of documentation on it, and I didn't want to have to flood the packet with a lot of things that will take a long time to read. This resolution was also submitted to the MTA and to the MSU, someone at the MSU, and there was several communications that were passed out or distributed to the board on those communications. And I was actually very pleased to see that Miss Cindy Dodge's response basically satisfied the information that I provided in regard to collusion and influence. What this proposal does, it helps maintain the public trust. It also eliminates individual board members from influence the direction and outcome of the process. It prevents board members from giving the appearance of having more power or authority over other members, and allows professionals to manage the duties they were hired and well paid to do, unfettered by individual board members' preferences. Any decisions will be board decisions. It eliminates micromanaging. It keeps the process transparent so all board members have the same information at the same time. What it does not do is prevent board members from participating and commenting, suggesting, or giving direction. It will happen as a board when making decisions during the process. It does not hinder the process per the planner. It does not prevent board members from advocating for the township until the point where an applicant comes to the planner and manager with a proposal. The advocating has been done. No one board member speaks for the entire board. No one board member speaks for the entire community. We each come with our own individual perspectives and preferences. We taint the process when we interject as individuals at these meetings with our prospective applicants. Any one of us, if we went to one of these meetings, concept meetings or development meetings, we go as individuals. We bring our own perspectives, we bring our own comments, we bring our own ideas. So we're giving the appearance that we're speaking for the board. It influences those conversations with the developer. I want this to be transparent. I want the public, and we want to be able to honor the public trust. You all remember Biltmore, I'm sure. When that proposal was being handled, there was even FOIA requests because the community, some members of the community thought that we were communicating with the developer as board members and planning commissioners on our own. I want to avoid that nastiness and ugliness. We want to make the next process that comes to our township clear from those things. People are still going to say what they're going to say. They're still going to imagine things that are happening or aren't happening, but if we can limit that kind of impact on the proceedings, that would be great. And another thing that came to my mind the other day was when we had to go through the cobalt survey, and we were asking all the board members, send in your information, what do you want to see? All the planning commissioners, tell us what you want to see on this survey. And what the cobalt came back with was, I have no direction here because they're getting so much things from individuals. Our planner and our zoning administrator and our township manager have the ability to handle these functions administratively. They don't, any one of us board members does not bring anything to those meetings that they don't have already. They know the master plan, they know the zoning, they know everything they need to know about going through the process. I don't know what else we could do. My other thought was, if people don't want the resolution to pass the board, the board can choose someone that they're comfortable with to be at those meetings if they decide to be there. One of the other suggestions in some of the research I was reading was that if a board member wants to attend these meetings, that they have to give notice that they want to attend, and the board has to decide or approve if that person can be there. There's a reason why there's ex parte communication issues, and we would like to avoid them. I would like to avoid them for our township and for our board and for the processes going forward. I did talk to our planner, and I asked him pointedly, I said, is there any advantage to a board member attending at any of these meetings? And he thought for a minute. He said, well, it's nice to have a happy face from the township there. He said, but Mary Bird, she's very good, she can do that. I said twice, is there a disadvantage to a board member not being there? He goes, no. I asked him again, is it hinder the process to not have a board member at these meetings? He says, no, we're quite capable of handling the process on our own. So, even the planner's comfortable with it. The planning commission's comfortable with it. I think what's good for the planning commission should be good for the board.
Well, I would like to say that the Planning Commission has a different role than this body. They aren't supposed to have contact with the applicant one-on-one. And if they do, they're supposed to disclose that information during the meeting so everybody has the same information. So it's actually written into the instruction for planning commissioners because they actually make decisions on site plans and the applications that come before them. The only the only thing that this Board of Trustees would do in association with the development would be to make the secondary decision on rezoning or conditional use. We don't deal with their site plans. This board is a legislative body. It's not a planning body. So those are the two things that come before us associated with planning. And otherwise, I think it's extremely educational for any of us to sit in on one of those concept meetings. I find it educational. Then you will know what it takes to get a development into this township. It helps us when we look at processes. I've been to them and I'm thinking, oh, that process could be better. I think it helps us be more objective in what's going on. So I would think it would be valuable for any one of us to sit through one of those concept meetings just to know. Also, our residents elected us and expect us to represent them. So why would we want to limit our ability to look into any of the processes that are going on here just to see how it goes and to see if there can be improvements and just, we're not necessarily advocating for one thing or another, but we're monitoring the processes and seeing what's going on for the benefit of our residents. Frequently, I'll get a call about this or that business where they would like to site in a certain area, and I would refer them to the master plan if it's not currently zoned that way. I would refer them to our zoning administrator or our planning consultant so that they can get professional advice on what to do with their project. And that's been very valuable. But because we are the representatives of the people and the businesses, the first person they think to call isn't necessarily our zoning administrator. They're thinking to call us and why they can't cite here or there, and they say, well, will you look into this? You know, and so I think it's our obligation to do so. Ms. Otto and I sat in, we met with a guy who was trying to sell a property over on Main Street, and he wanted us to take a look at the processes and monitor how it went, and you know, because of the perceptions. And I don't know how much we learned over that, but I didn't think it was a bad thing for us to do. We are ambassadors for this township. We ought to be the welcoming face to businesses that would like to site here. Ms. Otto, you have a comment?
Yeah. So I do remember that gentleman, and I am glad that you were with me on that, because it went into a direction that, because I'm on the ZBA, I had to basically almost excuse myself from the whole conversation. Because at one point, if it ever came up to the ZBA board, I would have to excuse myself from even voting because I met with him. So those are situations, because I know for my situation on the board, my situation's a little bit different, is that I have to judge each conversation a little bit differently, is because of the direction that the questions go. If they go into a direction where it is eventually going to come to the ZBA for any type of variance or any type of change, change or anything, it's not zoning change, but any type of variance in the zoning or variance in the setbacks or anything like that, I have to take myself completely out of the conversation. So I can't partake in those type of conversations at all. I do understand, I'm going to go, there was a comment Janet made on Biltmore. That was I was on the board at the time. I understood what the community was thinking. There was a perception there. I can't say, I can't say even as a board member that their perception was warranted, but there was a perception there that there was some type of collusion going on. I'm not saying that there was or there wasn't, but I am saying that that perception was very, very strong, and it created a strong, it was strong enough that not only did we have to provide, at that time, the board did not use township email. They used their own personal emails. We had to provide copies of our own personal emails because of that FOIA request. So it can be, and I'm not saying that that was wrong or anything, it's just the perception can be there. And when a builder comes in and wants to develop, we have to really have a fine line of when do we get involved and when we not get involved.
So my question that Ms. Steffans posed, what problem does this address? Like, why is this being brought up? Because of the Biltmore thing?
Because we are getting into an area where we're going to have developers likely, don't know for sure, coming into the downtown area, hopefully, and hopefully they'll be looking at other areas in our township that they can improve, which is a good thing. I want the conversations about the, development to be open and transparent, so we can talk about them here on the board. The public can hear everything we're talking about. The public can hear our opinion on what we would like to see or what we don't want to see or what we're happy with, what we're not happy with, what direction we'd like to see the development go in. But when a board member is in a meeting alone with the developer, the public's not able to hear that conversation. I just want to be open and honest and clear with the public and with the board members. It's another issue also of one board member having more information than the other board members have and not getting that same information. Please keep in mind, this isn't about advocating. We can all be ambassadors for our township. Everybody go out and talk to somebody. Say, if you see something that you like and you'd like to see it in the township, please go talk to them. My issue is at the point where that person comes to the township and sits down and says, hey, I would like to present a proposal, let administration handle it. That's what they're supposed to do. There's no reason for a board member to be in that meeting. You did bring up the point where it would be good for board members to actually see the process. Yeah. That's fine as long as a board member is not participating in the conversation. And how do you monitor that? So that's my fear, is that these things could go really badly if we aren't taking enough steps to prevent. I'm all about prevention. I've been in prevention for 20-some years. So I'd like to see steps taken to minimize the issues before they become issues.
Okay. Do we have a?
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm just gonna. Do we have a motion on the floor?
No.
Can we have a motion, please?
I guess you need to make a motion if you want to.
I have to find it. Hold on one second. I would like to make a motion to approve Resolution 18-579, resolution of the Northfield Township Board of Trustees to preclude board members as individuals from participating in any pre-development concept meetings or negotiations with building and zoning applicants.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion by Chick and support by Otto. Okay. Mr. Dockett?
Well, I don't know what all this is about, but I do believe we have a board member who likes to dominate everything and micromanage everything. Could be about that, I don't know. I'd like to say I did not give up any of my civil rights when I ran for trustee for this board. And I will attend any public meeting that I want to. I don't care how you guys vote. I did not give up my civil rights. Now, does this thing have any teeth? If it votes up, what are you going to do? I mean, if a family member or a friend that I know said, well, I'm going in front of the planning commission tonight, I've gone once or twice with my nephew and with a friend to a meeting as a board member, and I'll do so again unless there's something illegal about it. So
This is not public meetings. These are meetings with the developers.
Well, I just want to make sure I understand what's going on here.
When you asked about the teeth, the only teeth is there's no consequences if a board member decides, if it passes, to go to one of these meetings. What it does do is that person acted against the will of the board and possibly lose the trust of the board and the public if the public is in agreement. So,
Mr. Maines
Thank you.
Mr. Maines has a comment.
Just very briefly, our office had wanted this to come before the board because obviously we take direction from the board.
I can't hear you.
I apologize, Mr. Dockett. Said our office wanted to have this come before the board so that we could get some direction from the board to try to help craft the thing as what the board's looking for. Obviously, Mr. Dockett's concerns, we have the same sort of concerns that as drafted, this would appear to, and I know that this is not Trustee Chick's intention, this would appear to prevent any trustee from having any meeting with any developer ever before a development happens, which obviously implicates potentially serious First Amendment concerns. And so what my desire was tonight, and I think I've gotten a good idea so far, and I'm certainly happy for more input, is what exactly is the conduct that we're looking to prevent here? I think Trustee Chick mentioned folks having meetings alone with developers rather than being involved with the administrative staff. And in some of the information that the supervisor provided, the state law has mentions of people representing that they have more authority than they actually do, which Trustee Chick mentioned as well.
We're all pretty safe. We have one vote.
That's exactly right. And that's exactly right. And so I think what we would recommend is to have a resolution that is similar to the current resolution, but that in a more directed way, rather than saying no speech whatsoever, gets at the aspects that is found to be objectionable. Meetings alone, meetings where people are misrepresenting their authority, which is dealt with in state law for state officials, but not for local officials.
Ms. Bellinger hasn't had a chance.
Yeah, to me, it appears like we're tiptoeing around, as clearly this is a concern of influence. And there has definitely been lots of concern with some people perhaps having more influence. It is so that when one person does insert themselves into all the different facets or various facets of an organization, it's definitely runs risks for malfeasance and bad actions and so forth, and lack of transparency. Being elected representatives, it is, I guess, inappropriate to step outside of the prescribed responsibilities of the state statute of the office. We have a township manager, like Trustee Chick mentioned. We have staff to handle the things that perhaps should not be handled by the board necessarily, or members of the board. Clearly there's an issue of control, and this is not a new issue, but this is what we are trying to address. And I guess through statutes it's already been addressed, but the question is how now, what to do.
Ms. Chick?
My question for Mr. Maines, you mentioned, this is my dilemma, is you said somebody representing themselves as having more authority than, how do we know that that person is doing that if we're not all having the same conversation at the same time?
And the answer is, you don't know when people are having these meetings either. If Trustee Bellinger went out and met with 16 developers today, you wouldn't know that either.
No, I think that's where the confusion is. This isn't about any of us going out talking to people that we would like to see come to the community. It's about the point when they come to the office and they sit down and they say, I have a proposal I'd like to, that's when I have an issue.
And I understand that, but that's not what it says.
I understand, that's why I sent it to you.
Yeah, right. and that's
Please help me, yes.
I think the concern is that this, if I understand this correctly, this has been at your office for several weeks, or even over months.
From one board member.
Yeah.
Rather than the entire board. We asked to have this put on the last agenda, and it got pulled off.
Okay. That's because Ms. Chick was absent. So.
Because our office takes direction from the entire board, not from a single board member. So, so that's the issue. Is as it's written. I'm just going to read from the last part here, which is the important part. The now therefore. Members of the Board of Trustees shall not participate in any pre-development or concept meetings or negotiations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, with any applicants. This is the one that's in the packet. It's at the very bottom. I skipped some of the words in between that aren't relevant, but basically what it says is no Board of Trustees member shall have any meetings or negotiations with any applicant, which means anything. If they're at Dunkin' Donuts and they're talking about whether to get coffee or not, that's inappropriate under this. And so I think that we can refine it to get at what the board's really looking to get at here without sweeping protected speech into the ambit of what you're actually trying to get at.
Yes, the concern is definitely the First Amendment. That's first and foremost, we need to have that.
And so I think, and please, anybody feel free to chime in here. I think what I'm hearing is, again, meetings alone, an inappropriate representation of authority, which, as I say, is dealt with in state law for state officials. It has to be dealt with at a local level for local officials, which would be what this is. Really, I think what you're getting at here is it's like a code of ethics.
Yeah. Right.
Which realistically probably is broader than what this is, but probably is really what you're looking to do. I mean, it would address more than just development. It would address all sorts of things. You could do one that's just sort of a code of ethics in a development context, but it's something worth thinking about for the board as a whole. Lots of communities do these. Northfield Township doesn't have one, but it's something that you could do. I mean, that's what it really sounds like you're getting at here, is a code of ethics for the board in dealing with members of the public, whether it's development or whatever.
But sometimes isn't a code of ethics really like subjective? Like this person might not think that they're crossing a boundary, but they could be. So I just would really like to have it so that I want the process to be transparent. I want it to be free from controversy as possible. And when individuals get involved in it, that's when we have issues.
Right.
Did you have something, Ms. Manley?
Yeah, I guess I can agree with the, don't set up an individual meeting with somebody that's coming in. I totally get that concept. But if there is an elected official in this office, which we're representatives of the people that voted for us. People that voted for you, but not everybody. Okay, the people that voted for me, the people that voted for Marlene. If somebody comes into the office, if Marlene is there, Marlene has the knowledge, I'm there, I want to sit in the meeting, I don't see any point of why that can't happen. I mean, if you don't want a representative government, then why are we sitting here? I mean, it's the elected officials are not in the office because it was voted to be part-time. If somebody is in the office or chooses to be in the office and they're available, I personally don't see an issue with it being in there. And if somebody that comes in has that perception that, say, the supervisor has the authority, then maybe if Marlene's in a meeting or I'm in a meeting, explain how the process is. I mean, I have enough, I hope, faith and confidence in all of us that we wouldn't do that, that we don't need a written code of ethics. I mean, I don't know. And I don't know why this is coming up all of a sudden. Like, did something happen? Was it Biltmore? Was it? That was one. I mean.
Yeah, and we had a township manager at the time, and yeah, I recall very well that meeting with that developer. And I told him exactly what the master plan said, which was different than what he wanted to do. But he didn't want to do what the master plan said. So anyway, there is a standard of conduct for public officers and employees. It's a state law. And this was sent to me by the MTA, although I know anybody could pull it up. But it is pretty enlightening. And I forwarded it to all of you so you could read it.
Please don't read it to us.
I won't read it to you. But you can read it, and it really covers a lot of the stuff right in the first section. When I sent Ms. Chick's resolution to the MTA, I got a comment back which talks about this conduct, Code of Standards of Conduct, and it says, passing a resolution would have no authority over a board member, but the statute imposes its own penalties for misconduct. So it lays it all out here. They also say board members shouldn't interfere with the work of the building department. And, and that is fine. We have really well-qualified planner and zoning administrator. And I see it as a partnership between all of us and them to get this community moving in the direction that we all wanted when we were elected and what we ran on. MSU Extension, I sent it to MSU Extensions, and he said back, he teaches planning. And I described what when I talked, to people. He says, the manner in which you have described your conduct is very common and appropriate. Instead of a resolution prohibiting contact with potential developers, which could be very detrimental to development in your township may want to consider instead a conflict of interest or code of conduct that outlines how these interactions can occur and what the lines that cannot be crossed. And then he goes into no meetings without a quorum, no vested interest, no taking money, all of those kind of things which are played out in the state law. And so he says, while I understand the intent of proposing this resolution, I still stand by my previous email as this proposal seems too restrictive. It is not uncommon in large cities, for example, for the mayor to travel to other states or even other countries in efforts to attract new development to their city. So we all run into people, who may want a site here, who may have a business. I'm sure I ran into somebody at my Master Gardener meeting, who I passed along my card and said, hey, take a look at our RFP. And, we all should be ambassadors for our township. We've got a lot of opportunity here. We should be proud of our community, and we should be wanting to spread the news to whoever we come into contact with. Ms. Chick.
I wanted to reiterate again, this is not about us being ambassadors to our township.
Okay.
It's nothing to do with it. I wanted to reference the letters too, since you brought it up. First, the original resolution was sent, not the version in tonight's packet, and it is different. It is similar, but the line referencing staff was removed. There was also no mention in the initiating emails that Northfield Township has a manager whose responsibility it is to handle administrative functions, which include application meetings, concept meetings, pre-development meetings, and so forth. In townships that don't have a manager, the supervisor could, but that is not our structure. And the resolution is about prohibiting the solicitation efforts by the boards to attract new development, as inferred in his email. There's no mention of that action in the resolution. It's about the process at the time someone comes to the township with a proposal and wants to meet with a planner, manager, and building staff to discuss their proposal. It does not prevent any of us from being ambassadors of our township prior to the moment they bring that proposal to the township. There was also a commentary about the duties of the processes needing monitoring. Again, do we not have faith and trust in our professionals? Our professionals are more than capable of executing the process better than any of us, and we wouldn't have hired them. Micromanaging unnecessarily stifles the process and the professionals. There was also a comment about preventing coercion from one board member to another on how to vote. Our concern should also be coercion from a board member to an applicant to move in a direction an individual board member would prefer. This resolution will hopefully help to prevent that. I appreciate the input from the people that you contacted. I don't think that it contradicted, again, the intent of the resolution. It probably can be redrafted, but I'm still stand behind that. I don't think that we should be as involved in the administration process of the development proposal. And I did want to comment also Cindy Dodge's comment from the MTA, her response to your email. She supported that the integrity of the building and zoning system is built on the people doing the jobs they are assigned and free from interference or apparent interference from those who are perceived to have more power over those positions, such as board members. So board members should not interfere with the work of these departments. That was her comment. So, and while there's already statutes prohibiting specific conduct of the nature stated in the resolution, and passing a resolution, we have no authority over the board member. If it passes, a board member acted in defiance of the resolution, it would be noted that board member acted against the will of the board and risked losing the trust of the board and possibly the public. So this is all I'm trying to do, is make things easier and less controversial, because there's so much controversy in this township.
Okay. Ms. Zelenock?
I'm just not sure how we got to this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure what, as Ms. Steffans has asked, and I had in there, is what action has created the need for this resolution at this time. And in addition to that, I think a memo from the attorney or the township manager saying we need to have direction on what to do here would have been, to me, better, because when you put a resolution and you want to make a vote and you want a roll call vote, it puts a lot more like these questions. I think it would have been much better had we just had a note that says, I need directions, what is it that we're trying to accomplish, as opposed to having it written up in a resolution. And it's just,
Any board member can present a resolution at any time.
but most of our resolutions have to be reviewed by the lawyer. Is that correct?
I send it to the lawyer.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
And I believe, I believe the lawyer was, the trouble is my understanding, based on what Mr. Maine said today, is he does not take direction from any one board member. And the fact that it wasn't brought
He
up.
takes direction from board members individually all the time.
But I just,
Resolutions are done by individuals of our board. You don't come to our board and say, I want to do a resolution, okay? And the board says, yeah, okay.
No, you do it. Yeah.
You guys, you guys create a resolution and take it to and discuss it.
that's not what I heard.
And that's why we're.
Mr. Maines, could you clarify what direction you're looking for from us?
I think that I got the direction that I was looking for, but so as an example, the board frequently, some member of the board will take and work up a contract that they're interested in having with some entity. Comes to the board for discussion as to whether the board's interested in it, and if they are, it gets referred to our office for a workup. It was 2 or 3 boards ago now, we had a substantial issue with, and I can't imagine we'd have this issue with this board, but with board members trying to use our office to pick winners and losers, where we would get one person coming to us on an issue, trying to get us to weigh in so that they could come to the meeting and say, nope, you're wrong. The township attorney said that this is the way that it's got to be, so everybody should vote with me. And that's not what we ever have any interest in doing. We represent the board as a whole. That's what we've always done, and that's where we want to be. That's where we should be as attorneys. So I had said, let's put it on the agenda. Let's get a discussion by the board as a whole to get some direction as to what's desired here in terms of a resolution that can garner support of the board. We can work it up from there. And I think that we've got direction of what the board is looking to do.
Mr. Dockett?
I know what brought us to this point, but I'd like to say I am only on one board. I have no problems. I'm not spread out over 2 or 3 boards in this township, so it's pretty easy for me.
Ms. Chick and Ms. Otto, would you like to withdraw that so that the attorney can work on it? Your motion, or do you want to up and down vote on it?
It's not my motion, I supported it.
You support it, I mean, Ms. Chick.
Yep, I'll withdraw it, waiting for direction from our attorney
Okay.
on helping to
Okay.
create a resolution or something we can discuss.
Or policy or something.
Yeah, policy, yes.
Policy, okay. Thank you. Okay, next item. What have we got?
Is it possible to table this next item? I'd like to table it.
I don't know, sure.
I'd like to table section 125, premium only plan document, due to the time that it currently is at our board meeting, to the next board.
Okay.
Support.
Motion by Zelenock and support by docket. Any discussion on this? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, tabled. Thank you. Bills? Any comment on the bills?
I got some, but I don't want none for me.
Okay,
Mr. Dockett, what do you mean you have no comments on the bills?
No comments on the bills, okay.
I want to go home.
Yeah, me too. Okay, well, all right. Second call to the public. Oh, we have to
Oh, we
adopt the
gotta-
bills. We have to adopt the bills, wait.
We have to adopt the bills.
Yeah, we have to adopt the bills. I move to adopt the bills.
I'll support.
Okay, motion by Chalkley, support by Otto to adopt the bills. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Roll call on this one, roll call.
Okay, roll call, please.
Chick? Yes. Otto?
Yes.
Manley? Yes. Chockley?
Yes.
Zelenock?
Yes.
Docket?
Yes.
Bellinger?
No.
Okay, Bellinger, no. Okay, thank you, that passes. All right, we are at second call to the public. Would anyone like to speak at this time? Turn it on. There you go.
No, maybe, yes. Just wanted to comment after listening that I think Ms. Chick is right. And I appreciate it. And so do a lot of people in town.
What's right?
What Ms. Chick said is right.
Oh,
Okay.
Amy Steffans again. So the first time, at the first call of the public, I was here as a taxpayer. Now I would like to speak as a planner. In the development process, it is very helpful to have comment from everyone who could potentially be involved. I mean, when we in Hamburg have pre-development meetings, we have the planning commission members there. The chair wants to be involved because we can sometimes avoid pitfalls that make the development process so much longer for developers. And so I think that's why we're seeing a lot more development than a lot of our surrounding townships. I understand what Trustee Chick is getting at, I do. But when you tie the hands of people who have a vested interest in making sure that the development process goes smoothly, I don't understand how that helps the township. We may not always have a township manager. That was a very divisive issue for the board. So the next time it comes to think about hiring a township manager, we may not have one. And then we're back to the paid consultant who that developer has to pay for that development meeting, when perhaps there are people, you know, if there is a township manager, that person will be involved. The supervisor certainly should be involved. Just answering questions and figuring out where a potential proposal could go. I mean, I understand the intent, but I think the attorney's advice is good. Perhaps the resolution is not the best means to address the problem, but maybe it is a code of ethics. Just like I follow a code of ethics as an AICP planner, perhaps that is the solution and not a heavy-handed resolution that I think would do more damage to the process than what is intended. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Board member comments. Let's start with Ms. Bellinger.
Well, like I say, we have a Parks and Rec meeting April 19th. That's coming up pretty soon. Thank the township for taking part. I would like to see Kiwanis definitely in town, and I would like to see something happen with 75 Barker. It seems like we've kind of been, I don't know, it just seems like there's a whole lot of choking going on with regards to ability to, you want to charge fees for this, or you can't do this and you can't do that, and I don't know. It's a balance between making it fair for people and also making it doable. So, I think we'll get something worked out. It'll have to happen. Thank you.
Mr. Dockett, do you have any comments?
Buy and use local goods and services, and it costs the taxpayers of Northfield Township $761,215.81 to run this township over the last 30 days. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chick, do you have any comments?
I really don't know if I want to ask it at this time of night, but Treasurer Zelenock made a comment about Green Oak indicating that their processes were easier to get, but they're not bypassing any building codes or ordinances. I'm wondering what is making it easier.
So when I go to different meetings, that's what people tell me, that it's so much easier to work in Green Oak. And I said, tell me how. One is they're not necessarily easier, but their fees are less. So I think we need to look at fees. But I'm saying it can't be any easier because we all have to follow the same rules. So that's what I thought having someone like Green Oak come in and look at 70 Barker, and if we got the same answer, you know, again, that reaffirms that we're following the same rules, but I just hear that it's so much easier to do business there.
Got St. Charles over there, for one thing, been there for 20 years.
Wow.
And they are not, they're a general township or something.
They're a charter township.
They're a charter,
Yeah.
they're different than
Right,
us.
right. So that was all.
That may help.
But maybe we can look at how Hamburg and how things are working over in Hamburg Township if they're getting the development. So maybe there is some processes that we can improve. So that wasn't my only comment on that regard.
Really quickly, I apologize, but the Planning Commission, when they're looking at the ordinances, they're actually pulling ordinances from Hamburg and the surrounding areas, so we're pretty much in the ballpark there, so.
Right, and I just think the public needs to know that, because when I go to different meetings, I'm just constantly told how much is, I know it's changing that perception that we're doing this, we are looking at best practices.
Okay. Ms. Otto?
I don't have anything for tonight, but thank you for everyone for coming in. I appreciate the Kiwanis presenting.
Thank you. Ms. Manley?
Yep, one important thing, there will be a May 8th election for Ann Arbor Public Schools. We are not doing the election here, Salem Township is doing it. So if you are in the Ann Arbor Public School District, you'll be voting at the Salem Township Hall. And then, second thing, Chief is gone, but I wanted to just give out my thanks to the Northfield Police Department and the Fire Department just for what they do in our community and protecting us and our children. Second, I guess third thing, maybe in Green Oak the process is smoother. I don't know if it's maybe easier, but it might be smoother. And we're talking about perception. Go back and look at one of our meetings and just see how we work together. And that's people's perception, what they see when they come, you know, to Northfield Township. If I wanted to be a developer here, I would look at a meeting and I'd look at the board and see how we interact with each other and how we function, and use that as part of my determination on if I want to be a builder here. So that's it.
Thanks. Ms. Zelenock?
I mean, I think, again, we have to look at our agendas
Yeah.
and really put a lot of emphasis on making sure the agenda items are ordered where we think we certainly would get participation from the public. And we have to keep our meetings shorter. We really need to work on the process. I know we keep saying it. It's almost been 2 years. We really need to look at. I looked at it and said, "Oh, this should be, you know, good," but we really need to look at it.
Support.
All right, and I have to say that I'm going to pass out, I'm going to the Michigan Township Association Annual Conference, so I won't be at the next meeting. So I'll be gone to that. And I'm going to pass out the sessions that I'm planning to attend in case any of you are interested in me trying to get more information. Here. So those are the sessions I'm planning to attend. If you want me to try to get the information for you, I'll be happy to try to pull the PowerPoint presentations or whatever. So thank you all for coming tonight, and you all have a safe trip home, and be happy to talk about Barker Road. Thank you. Good night. Motion to adjourn.
Just one little quick thing. The Easter egg hunt was really cute, really fun. Thank you, Kiwanis, for putting that on.
Thanks.